Hi, this is Christopher Spera, and this is the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 170. Again, just the tip. Recorded live Sunday, May 3rd, 2026, live from iTechGear Central. As I said, I'm Christopher Spera, the editor-in-chief here at the iTechGear.orgs. Man, we've got a full crew today, and I am so glad to see everybody's just lovely, shiny, happy face. Look at, if you honestly, guys, if you could see the crew like I see the crew, oh, what a crew!
Keep your travel bag
You're
nearby.
looking at a different Zoom screen than me.
Thank you for making my point. We've got the editor at iTechGear, the former contributing editor at Gear Diary, and of course the late great pocket. Now that's Mr. Chris Gavula. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Getting really sick of this up and down in the weather, though, guys. I'm getting real exhausted.
Everybody.
Driving my sinuses crazy. Been sick with a cold earlier in the week again. All that stuff,
Yeah.
It's got to stop.
Yeah.
I think we're all, everybody I know seems to be suffering from it. So
yeah,
I'll be happy when we're past that and properly into spring or properly into summer. As we don't really have
that'll
spring.
be the end of June.
Winter to summer.
That's the end of June.
Yeah, we go right winter to summer here.
Yes.
Or as you said, as you guys say in Chicago, you go right from winter to construction.
Yes, this is very true.
That was the old Chicago joke.
Yes. So also joining us this week, we've got the editor at iTechGear here, and we've got the former contributing writer from Gear Diary and currently the host of the Linux Link Tech Show, Living in the Retro Arcade podcast, and of course, Fitness for the Rest of Us. Preparing for his Mammoth March, this is Brother Joe McLaughlin. How are you, sir?
Doing just fine. Just wish I didn't have to work the rest of the week, but I do.
Hey.
But I only got 4 days.
Hey, so. all I have to say is feel blessed that you have it. There are those that don't. So
true enough.
Company included.
True
By
enough.
the way, world, if you're out there, I am available. Hire me. And of course,
look at his LinkedIn profile, kids.
Yeah,
look at his LinkedIn profile.
Yes.
Go beat it on Microsoft Store.
There
they
you go.
need
We'll
you
do that
badly.
later. We'll do that later for sure. But that there, kids, that's the editor at iTechGear, and of course the former co-owner of WUGNET Publications. That's Dr. Mr. Larry McJunkin. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, and I damn sure remember an era where it was a different Microsoft that we worked for. I'll tell you that.
Let me tell you something.
We'll talk about that later. I know.
We will. We'll get into that in depth.
I just can't believe that after 16 years of not doing yard work, my yard dude just hit us up with a 25% increase. And I said, you know what? I need more exercise anyway. So I went out and bought a lawnmower, a whole bunch of other crap, and I'm going to do it myself.
I did. You go.
Why not?
Larry, my mom's a big fan of her John Deere, and she runs around the yard a couple times a week. So
yeah, good for her.
You know, she does think that my tractor's sexy. So,
and she's got more years than you, Larry. And she's out there doing it.
Yeah,
she's got more years than you.
Good for her though for doing it.
She loves it. She loves it. Her little tongue hangs out the side like a dog hanging his head out the window. It's just great. And you got a little hat on. It's great.
That's awesome.
Love you, Mom.
Tell Mom we said hello.
Will do, of course.
You know, I want to go ahead. I want to open up the show and get us into our Apple segment. And you know, there are a lot of stories that were up for bids, if you will, for this week's Apple segment. I mean, you know, most of the news and stuff that we pass around tends to be heavily Apple segmented, if you will, and that's just because there's so much is going on. And I saw this one, and it really kind of made me stop and go, you know, one of the old Arsenio Hall things that make you go, sort of thing, you know, and it really kind of makes you wonder, and you have to ask the question, Joel, has Apple really given up on the Vision Pro?
It kind of sounds like it a little bit, you know,
well, what's going on with this? What's happening?
The M5 version didn't really get the uptake they thought. And
well, the price tag did stay at $3,500.
Yeah, this is true too. I mean, I think that's a big reason, but I also think that there's no killer app yet for it other than watching things.
See, there you go.
But some really work well with it. I mean,
well, sure, and Chris will be the first to tell us.
Yeah,
you know, regardless of
device.
processor, the device is pretty amazing.
It is, and let me make it clear with this particular story, because the title in the story that we're quoting here is a bit misleading, because the title says Apple has given up, but really the first line of the story says Apple has all but given up.
Yeah.
It's not.
true.
It's a little misleading here. So there hasn't been an official anything from Apple about this,
Other
one
than
way or
the
the
fact
other. I want to make that clear.
they stopped working on the lighter weight Vision Pro.
And they did that quite a while ago. Yeah,
They did.
Right.
That was.
They did.
Vision
But what's
Air.
interesting about this, it's a little contradictory, because just it wasn't even a week ago, I think it was, that Turnus was already talking about how this is just the first step on a path.
Yeah, had a
how
big
this device.
picture of him with a Vision Pro.
So, okay, is he lying, or is this just misleading, or are they just really misinterpreting what's going on here a little bit? Do I think that Apple has kind of stepped back and is probably not going to do a lot of direct development on this? Probably. But I have a feeling that even if that's the case, it'll be around a little while yet. And I think that Apple, being Apple, will find ways to leverage the technologies that are in this thing in other devices. We're already hearing about them trying to leverage it into their quote unquote glasses product, which may or may not happen. We may remember that some of the technologies even in the Newton got leveraged into other products after the fact. So
namely the
it
iPad.
will not be. It will not be right. It may. I don't think it'll be a wasted effort one way or the other. But I think you guys have hit the nail. I mean, the price for what's in it, the price is actually not unreasonable, but it is in the sense that you can't get anybody to pay that much, for this kind of niche product. And there is no killer app. I mean, there's some great apps for it. Don't get me wrong.
There's some great
There's some
apps
phenomenal
out there
apps for
it, but there's nothing really that is
nothing
making
that's enough to
everybody
get people
wring their hands
I
and
gotta
go,
have
when can I
this.
get one? When can I get one?
Yeah, there's I mean, the technology. I think some people thought the technology alone would be enough to get people to do that. It's not. It's amazing technology, guys. I'm here to tell you, it's amazing. It
But the
truly is.
information is
But that's not
available
enough.
everywhere else. That's the problem. It's the
And
same info. It's just prettier,
it's
I
not.
think.
Well, there's things like, again, there's some uses, things like watching 3D movies.
I was going to say,
are
watching
just
movies
phenomenal
on this
in
thing
VR.
is going to be an absolutely
It's phenomenal.
killer experience, but that can't
Using
be the
it-
killer app, because there's
a lot of
different ways
people-
to watch movies.
There's a lot of people that love to use it for the its ability to basically mimic huge ultra wide monitors.
Right.
And what the thing is, I always kind of laugh, because we go, oh, $3,500, that's way too much. Apple charges you more than that for a monitor, kids. They have monitors that cost more than that.
Well, they certainly have
the point I'm getting at
network or notebook computers out there that cost maybe twice as much.
That's a different thing. That's a complete system. I'm talking about just a monitor. That's just a monitor.
Yeah,
that's over $3,500.
The new XDR starts at like $3,600.
So I don't think that this is, for all the technologies that are in this thing, I don't think it's unreasonable for what it is. However, if you don't have the use for it, you don't have the use for it. And $3,500, people will pay $3,500 for a monitor because they need those specs and those kind of things.
Yes.
There isn't anything in here. There's things in here that people like and want and are kind of aspirational, but there aren't anything in here that is, I got to have it. I need this. There isn't anything like that here. And that's going to be a challenge. Without that killer app, you got to have one or the other to drive it. Either the price has to be down, or you have to have the killer app, or some combination of both. And they don't have it.
That's the success of the iPad, right? That form
it
factor.
Is.
They've made that you can get an iPad for $329. You can. You cannot get a Vision
and that's
Pro.
why
there
Apple
isn't a version of the
share.
Vision Pro that's under $1,000.
But no, but that's almost impossible to do and include all the technologies that are in this thing.
No.
There's some things they could trim off, and I think they could easily get it down to $2,500 easily. But I don't know how much lower they can get at it without giving up something significant.
Even then, man, at 25, I don't know what the sweet spot is in terms of price for this device.
I don't either. I don't. Well, some people say that the sweet spot is where Meta Quest is. Around their $500 or so price point, give or take a little bit. But I think that even that's wrong. The Meta Quest doesn't sell as well as people think it sells either.
No, I agree.
I don't think anything in the VR space sells the way. So I think it's always going to be a niche market, at least for a while, because I don't think anybody's got a killer app for any of them, quite honestly.
Right. I would still like to see something lightweight and movable and usable as far as,
Yeah.
glasses, like the Ray-Ban glasses are
Y-
concerned. I would like to see something like that.
Yeah.
However, if it doesn't have that display technology built into the glasses, even then, I don't think that it's going to be a
Well, and
huge.
my problem with the notion of the glasses is I don't want to be exposed to my outside environment when I'm wearing the thing. I actually want to be isolated because that enhances the watching experience. And the
You
glasses
know,
don't permit you to do that.
there's one other thing that I don't think we've ever talked about.
What's
And
that?
I asked someone very near and dear to this product, and their paycheck comes from Cupertino, so I know they're
Oh,
very close to
gotcha.
it. And I'm talking about an Apple Store person that I know. They think, they don't know either, but they think that people like it, but they're restricted in where they can use it. Can't use it in the
Yeah,
car. Can't walk around a mall with it. Can't take it to school. They can't do the things that they can do with an iPad, an iPhone, or a Mac.
that's very
It,
true.
it makes a
You
lot
know,
of sense, really.
I actually like that aspect of it, that it's isolating, but that isolating thing is actually a negative for a lot of people. There's no question of it. I
Yeah.
have,
And
however, I have seen several times now, I've seen actually people using them on the airplane because they want
there,
to
I would
be
imagine,
isolated
yeah.
and separated, and they put their AirPods in, they put the headset on, and they don't have to deal
They're
with the
cut off
airplane.
from the airplane and they're watching their movie.
And you don't need the space that you
Right.
need to deal with your
Right.
laptop or your
Or
iPad in
your
front of
iPad.
you.
Yeah.
Good point.
So they like that. So there are some use cases for it, but is that enough to justify the price?
See, and
Probably
that
not for
and
a lot of
there I
people.
don't think that it is. There I don't think that it is, and this is the biggest
Yeah.
problem. This and the price, I think, is the big problem. I think Joel's right. They don't have the killer app yet. Movie watching is not the
It's not
killer
enough.
app. It's
Right.
not
Not
an
for
it's
people. And
clearly not enough. It has to be
I'm,
some
you
level
know,
of
Yeah,
productivity
that's
yeah.
and
not an
something
app.
other,
That's not an app. That's
And
No.
let me make it clear. I didn't pay the full 3,500 because I bought it used.
Right.
So I didn't pay that kind of money for it. So, but I did pay a lot for it, but not that kind of money. And the
Sure. But
reality
even
is,
still,
I like it. Yeah, I think it was
even
worth it to me because, but then again, I've also paid more than $2,000 for an iPad.
true,
So,
because
because I
that's
load
your
my iPads up.
but that's your primary computing device is your
That's my
iPad.
primary computing.
So
Yeah, it
Hell,
really
I
is
paid
more than anything else.
1,500 for a lawnmower. Come on.
yeah.
There you go. So, and it's
Yeah.
all about what you need, guys. And it
That's
really
right.
comes down to
Use case,
Absolutely.
use
if it
case.
isn't there, it isn't there. And I think this is going to be a niche no matter how you look at it. And it's a hard sell no matter how you look at it.
Right.
So are they getting rid of it? Don't
So
know.
have they given up on it? No, I don't
Hey,
think they've given up on it. Is it going to have the pride of place that they hoped that it would have? Man,
Nah,
probably
no,
not. Probably not.
probably not.
It and to be
It may just
fairly
languish for a while. That may be what it's going to do. It may just languish. I don't know.
maybe hang on, but just kind of by the skin of its teeth. I don't know.
They are still updating the OS, and they've
Yep.
still been adding things into the OS.
Yep.
Quite a few things actually, and apps are still popping up from time to time. Not at the rate that they would like them to see, but there are still things happening. It's
Sure.
not a dead platform. Chris, you and I know we saw the end of Windows Phone. We saw that platform die. We saw the apps just dry up, and there just wasn't anything.
Don't remind me, man,
But the
because
point I'm
that
yeah,
getting at is
because I
that this is
still
actually in a
miss my
better state
phone.
than that was. This is
that's
still in a better
that's
state than that was.
that one still stings a little bit,
It does. Me too.
Um,
Me too, guys. You know how I
That
felt
is the
about
hardest
the Windows
product
Phone.
I ever had to stop using.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, me too. I
Yeah,
still
it
have
was
a
a
couple
good
of them. I
it was a
turn them
good
on every now and
platform.
then just to see them.
It was a good platform.
Just to
But
play with
Yep.
it a little bit. So I
anyway,
get
what
it.
else is also
What
hard
else is
to
up?
get right now is the Mac Mini out there at $599. You
Yeah.
can't get that one anymore, can you, Joel?
Nope. They have dropped the 256 gig drive option, and you can only get the bigger drive.
Right. It starts now at $799, not $599.
Yep.
And that's with an M4 chip, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and 512 gigabytes of storage. So it used to be, the same specs in terms of chip and RAM, but 256 gigabytes, and now not so much.
I
So
heard that the reason they dropped some of these is because of the RAM shortage. So they're trying to put their money into
Could
the
be.
products that
Yeah.
make them a little bit better profit margin.
Well, all I have to say is this: the Mini is not something because of the way that unified memory works. It's actually on the processor and not something that you add in like you used to be able
No,
to.
no. But if you only have RAM for so many, you can only make so many units because you don't have enough RAM chips.
This is what I'm saying.
You're going to put it in your
But
higher end
the-
ones.
Well,
Right.
did the 256 gig one only have 8 gig of RAM? Because I thought it always had 16. Because they
No.
haven't changed
No,
the
no,
RAM.
it's got 16.
They're all
It
16.
had, it had
They're all
16 at
16 now.
$599.
Right, because they haven't changed the RAM option. The only thing it
No.
changed was the storage option.
Was right,
That's it.
right.
Yep.
So you, and it's something that you would want with you know,
Yep.
more storage and more RAM if you could get it, but you know, the
They're just
long and
forcing you up the food chain a little bit.
right, they are forcing you up the food chain a little bit. So and it's not like you're going to be able. This is not a M.2 SSD that you've got stuck in there. This is something again that's
Right.
soldered to the motherboard. So it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but
It is. It is.
so
Eh.
you know, and it's apparently this thing has been unavailable to order since last week, and now it's been completely
Yeah.
removed from the website. So you know you may be able, if you've got to have one, you know, at that price point, you may be able to go to a certified reseller and maybe get one there, or maybe you might be able to find one on Amazon. You know, but yeah. So yeah, and you're right. It's got to be, you know, it's due to the global memory chip shortage. So
I'm sure that's got to be a lot
Yeah.
to do with why they're
yeah,
making it not
yeah,
available.
it costs,
Yep.
and while Apple is not feeling the pinch from the cost increase, it's coming. It's coming. It's
Yeah,
gonna
of
eat
course
into
it
their
is.
profits, and it's ultimately going to be passed down. So
But most of the economists are telling us we won't really hit this until June or July. These really bad numbers.
well,
So we'll see. We'll see what really happens. But yeah, it's coming anyway. At least in some
It is.
ways, this is going to come no matter what.
it's going to be a
Yep.
while before you see any relief with that. And so
Yep,
anyway.
I think so.
But that's just me. But you know what else is going on is that apparently, and I don't know if this is you know how much credibility is behind this. Is Apple not updating the iPad, Larry? Is that what's going on?
Rumor. You know, Apple back when said that they were going to launch the successor to the A16 iPad earlier this year. It never happened, never happened. They did launch, or they did release the new iPad Air back in March,
Yeah.
but still no new base iPad. The rumor mill continued and it continued, just like always. Said,
Yeah.
oh, it's coming. Our good old friend Mark Gurman, and he's as good as any of them at Bloomberg, said, it's still
not
coming this
even-
year. It's
not
coming.
even breathing heavy. It ain't.
Yeah, well, recent rumors do suggest that the iPad 18 probably won't launch until July at the earliest. I mean, the A18 iPad won't launch until at least July, and more likely in the fall.
In the fall, along
So,
with
and it's all, you know,
everything
we all know that we could wake up one day and this is one of those just happened. They just see a
Yeah,
news
you'll see a
flash and
press
it's
release
in
or-
the store
yeah.
today. Buy your new
Yeah.
iPad.
Yep.
So, but more than likely, I think Apple's CFO is singling out the iPad as the most difficult device to update. And I don't know exactly. I tried to read more about that. I couldn't find anything more about it.
I really would like to know.
You know, he
why
says
that
it's a
is.
hard device to update, meaning no new iPads are launching until later this year. So I don't know what that really means. Why is it any harder than anything else?
That's
Right.
a really
I don't know.
great question. That's a great question.
There's a lot of
I have
crap in the
no
chassis,
idea.
but I don't know why that would make it any different than a phone. But okay.
I don't either. But we shall see, like with all rumors.
Yeah.
A lot of rumors in this business, aren't there?
Yeah, well,
A lot of rumors.
it always seems like every week there's rumors. Who's got the rumors? You know.
But you know what? A
Mhm.
lot of them come true, guys. I'm looking back at the stuff
They
that
do.
we've talked about,
Yeah.
and they
They do.
have. I mean, especially what's his butts?
I think Apple as a company is now leveraging more of what I would call the leaking market than, and Google and Samsung used to do that heavily a lot. And I think Apple is starting to leverage that a little more than they used to.
That's a
They're
good point.
leveraging these leaker channels more than they used to. I think they're deliberately doing it. I mean, I don't think it's accidental.
I think a lot of the companies out there nowadays are doing
And
Sure.
Google's done this for years. They made a lot of money.
Well, that's what
on
I'm
it.
saying. They really have, and so I think Apple's just starting to
And
leverage
Samsung's
it a
the
little more.
same
So.
way. They've done it too.
Oh, absolutely.
They have. So
and
they
now
seem to be
Apple's
going there.
following suit. It's this is the one time that I think Apple is following Samsung. So
In some ways, yeah, in some ways that's absolutely true.
Yeah. And speaking of rumors, right? Apparently there are fans out there that are hating on the rumored design of the iPhone Ultra. Now, the iPhone Ultra, Larry, is what?
We don't know, do we?
Well, it's rumored to be. It's rumored to be
Rumor
the
has it to be
foldable, right? The iPhone
a
Fold.
foldable iPhone that is more like a shorter from top to bottom vertically and a little bit wider than the typical phone type of phone. And I know I'm going to get roasted by at least two of you on this one, but I mean, I know you. I mean, I get it. You guys love this fold concept, but for those of us like me who could care less about it, I still subscribe to the theory. If you want a big ass phone, buy yourself a cellular iPad mini and go on with your life. Why do you have to have a big phone that's I don't know.
Well, all right, a couple of things.
Well, no, let me finish.
Okay.
Go ahead. No,
Okay.
go ahead.
Larry, the phrase is you couldn't care less.
Well, you're right.
You said you could care less, but you couldn't care less in reality.
I could not care less. You're right.
Perfect. Thank you.
Larry, I'll hold him. You can slap him, okay?
I was raised by a school teacher.
And I'm the damn grammar major, too.
Yeah. You and me both.
We can't help it, Larry. We're raised by school teachers.
No, but honestly, this thing is starting to get a lot of bad press. People are saying they don't want it.
Well,
so, and it's only come out when they leaked this model, the real model.
Well, there's a couple of things that are going on with this, right? There's a couple of things that are going on with this. There's a lot of thought as to what's going on with, you're going to pay somewhere in the neighborhood of well over $2,000 for this particular.
I think it'll start at $1,995.
I think you're going to pay more than $2,000 for this particular phone. And every mock-up that I've seen thus far has not had any kind of decent camera array on it. It's got two lenses that I see on this thing, all right, on the back. All right. And if I'm paying $19.99 or whatever for this, around $2,000 for this particular device, I want.
But even if you,
I want the pro camera array on this thing.
Even if you discount that very important point, that phone is not pocketable. Period. It's not.
Oh no,
unless you're wearing baggy pants.
Absolutely. It's too wide. It's too wide to be pocketable. This is the biggest problem. It looks very, very similar to the Surface Duo line, right?
And the original
or a small
generation
Kindle.
Pixel Fold.
Yeah.
The Pixel Fold.
It looks really, really similar to that. It's wider. It's wider than your standard phone. And this is, I think part of the quote unquote draw for this particular thing is because it's supposed to be more tablet-like when you unfold it. All right.
If you have a purse, that's fine.
You're right, wrong, or indifferent. But I found one of the biggest reasons why the Duo did not work for me. All right, and I never really stuck with it as an Android phone was because it was too wide and it hurt to hold the thing because I had to stretch my hand out in order to be able to get my fingertips around the edge.
One other thing, guys,
I didn't even hold it that way.
We are still at the point in 2026 where Apple could change this. If they get a lot of negative feedback right this minute, they could still bring out a different.
They could, and I'm
certain
because I'm certain that there's a prototype or a quote unquote.
They say the end of May. End of May is their break is the date they can't go beyond.
Yeah, I'm certain that there's one there that is thinner, right?
Oh, sure.
It'll go
Tons
ahead
of them, yeah.
and decrease the tablet length of this thing when it's unfolded, right? But part of the
If it
problem that you
looked like
see
the fold that you guys got, I would still be
with it,
interested.
yeah,
I
that well,
mean,
Well,
that's
here,
because
but there's problems
largely,
with that. There's problems with that format too, guys. You know
yeah,
that.
yeah, that's more square. You know, your standard fold is more
Yeah.
square. All right,
And the problem too is
when
when you open
unfolded,
up that fold, you really don't leverage the space the way you ought to because it's vertically higher rather than wider. So you don't watch movies
correct,
on it like you would. So there's some
correct.
challenges with that format too, which is why they went wider to more match the aspect ratio of a iPad in landscape.
mhm.
But there's a couple of thoughts here. First of all,
Yep.
you have to look at the source of this particular article that we're kind of quoting, which isn't an article. It's an article that's actually quoting a website called MaxTech, and
Yeah.
it's one website. It's one vlogger. So these users complaining are really only on one YouTube site.
Right.
Okay,
It's one
so
YouTube
take
site,
that
and
for
it's
what it's
also
worth.
the site that we're quoting here. We're citing it in the show notes is from the New York Post. It's not.
Right.
But they're quoting MaxTech. They're not actually saying
I
anything
understand that.
unique.
I
Yeah.
understand that, but this is not what I don't know how technically savvy or accurate or whatever the
Yeah,
original source is, but the Post is also not normally a place where you would go for tech news.
yeah.
But if
So
you go back to the
when you have a
article,
Go ahead.
look at the
yeah.
other things though. What about the MagSafe? Maybe no
And this is
MagSafe.
exactly
Maybe
where I was going to go. There are a few other
That's a,
maybe
things.
no
well,
Face ID. Maybe come on, that's
yeah. Well, first of all,
Right.
I think they're over exaggerating what people are saying, hate or love wise, because I don't think anybody's really saying much of anything yet. Quite
Right.
honestly, yet because it's not out yet.
Yet.
So again, quoting what one website, excuse me, what one YouTube site says, or what their comments in the YouTube site are, it's kind of like disingenuous at best, in my opinion. But having
Well,
said that, there's three big things I see. One has been the camera. Okay,
right.
honestly,
There's only two cameras on this thing.
but let me finish it because what's important about that is most foldables that are out there today have compromised cameras. They all do. They're not as good as their candy bar versions. They're
and that
not. They're
makes
usually
sense.
missing a
I
lens
mean,
or they're a slightly
That's
lower
not completely true.
resolution.
That's not completely true. The
Yeah, it is
Samsung Z
actually.
Fold 7 has got
No,
the
the Z
full.
Fold 7, no, the Z Fold 7 had the camera from the previous generation candy bar, not from the current generation candy bar. They went
Yes,
one
but it was
back,
still a decent. Yes, but it was still
but it was
a
still a
quote unquote
compromise.
professional. It was
But it
still
was still a compromised camera. So it is what it is.
only
But the
because it
point I'm
was
getting at
last
is,
year's camera and not this year's.
but that's important. The point is they're all compromised in some form. They're not the current generation top of the line things, and yet they're charging a top of the line price. They're not. They're using either previous generation or they're limiting them somehow. However, if you take that they were basing this on what they did with the iPhone Air 17, right?
Yeah.
This is a better camera than that, a better camera set than
Well,
that. So I'll
I
give
would
them
hope
that.
so. I
and
would hope so because
supposedly
they
what
should
the
have.
next Air will look like.
Well,
Supposedly.
from a terms of the camera bump in the array, then yes, okay. But
Yeah. So
but there's only two lenses on this camera, number one, and for the price that you're paying, you would think that they would have the full the three lens array on this thing. Number one. Number two, I want to get back to something that Larry had mentioned. The other lack of features, which was the biggest one is there's no MagSafe circle
maybe,
on this
again,
thing.
we don't know that.
We
Just
don't
these
know that for
prototypes.
certain, but I would think, and this is just me, and I could be wrong, but I think that you're going to have a hard time getting that feature in this particular phone because it is so short in terms of
So
height,
here's the question. Here's the
vertical
question that
height.
nobody's asking yet. So it may or may not have the MagSafe ring. Let's assume for a moment that it doesn't have the MagSafe ring. Does it still have key charging? If it still has that,
If it still has
that'll
the
be
key
less of an
charging, then I
issue.
think that it's not as bad. It's not as
Right.
bad. All right.
But nobody's
Um,
not talking about that yet. Does it still have that layer? I don't know.
I don't know either, and nobody. It's because you haven't. The device hasn't been announced yet. All right, but the dummies that
Right,
are around that have
exactly.
been circulated and that there are a lot of pictures on the internet about clearly show a back that's got that two bump camera bump, the two lens camera bump. Number one, and no MagSafe ring because every other iPhone that you see has on the mock-ups that are there. It has the MagSafe ring mocked up on the back of the device. So if it is missing MagSafe, if it is missing Face ID due to the lack of a LiDAR camera on the front, all right, or anything else on the front camera, if it is missing the wide angle camera or the second zoom camera or whatever it is on the back of the phone, if it's got two lenses and not three, I
But
don't know that I would be
Chris, let me
interested.
let me stop you there just
I don't know that I would be
one
interested.
minute, just for 1 minute. Think back. It's
Yeah.
you're bringing in expectations as well as other things here. Go back to the iPhone 10. The iPhone 10 had how many lenses? Two.
It had
When it
two,
first came out with that lens, I mean, it was a great phone, did everything that everybody wanted,
but
and then all of a
we
sudden they
weren't
brought out
props.
the
We
three
didn't have
phone.
three. We didn't have phones with three lenses yet.
iPhone 11 was the first one that brought out
It
three
was.
lenses.
It was. All right. But that
But
was the next
we
generation
all
up.
thought those two lenses were perfect in the 10. So
And
At
the
now
the
ten
time,
is
we've
because
come
it
to
was the latest,
expect.
at the time, because it was the latest, greatest. All right. It was
well,
the greatest
but
and most current
but
camera technology that was out there.
when you only had the one lens setup, you're kind of trapped. When you have the two lens setup, you can kind of fake that third lens to an extent
Right.
with those two lenses. You can do
And I
that a
think
little
they
bit.
can do that according to Apple with the two lenses on this one.
So I don't think it's as big a deal as all that yet, but that isn't the
I
big.
don't either.
And quite honestly, the FaceTime, the Face ID missing, I don't think that's a thing at all. I really think people aren't going to care that much about Face ID. I mean, it's
I
nice, but
wish
it's
it
not a
had
gotta have.
embedded. I'd rather had a fingerprint embedded in it personally.
Yeah, well, and it will have the fingerprint. That's what they're going to theoretically going to do instead of
Yeah,
the
and
Face
that's
ID
what I'm
if they don't
saying.
have the lidar camera. I personally, Chris, the thing that bugs me the most about and I think those things are important, and maybe together it's a bigger deal. I don't know. Again, I don't know which is true or not true yet. Haven't seen it
Right.
yet. What I
Right.
do think is if these mock-ups are true, the fact that they went from being all the way across like it is on the iPad Air, excuse me, on the iPhone
Right.
Air
To just
to two-thirds of the way, it's already going to be problematic putting this thing down on a desk.
yep.
That's going to make it worse
Yep.
to me. And honestly, that is fugly as all get
At
out.
least the
That
iPhone
two-thirds across thing.
17, the 17 fixed that problem at
Yes.
least.
Well, I was going to say, I don't, even on the 16, I don't like the halfway across
I
No,
agree.
camera bump.
I
I'm
Think
agree.
those are
agreeing with you. That's
hideous.
what I'm saying.
So
I agree.
I'm thinking, to me, again, once you start getting to these price points, I know it sounds terrible, but the aesthetics become more important to people, kids. They just do.
Well,
I
when
mean,
when you're
look
paying
how much arguments we have just about the colors of the dang thing that are
when
going
you're
to be out
paying
there.
$2,000 for a phone,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
for a phone, all right.
Well, but
I have
keep in mind, Apple
if
is
you're
a
not
prestige
if you're
brand,
not
so
giving me
you
the latest
care.
greatest of everything when if you're not giving me the
But you
latest
aren't
greatest of
getting that with
everything, then
folds
I have an
anyway.
issue.
You aren't. You aren't getting that with folds today anyway, I would argue. But the point I'm getting at is that the aesthetics, when you start to pay these kinds of prices and you start paying that Apple premium to begin with, the aesthetics become a bigger deal,
They
as
do.
we've learned.
They're always a
People
big
want the
deal with
orange
me.
phone. I mean, really? People want the orange phone? Really? That kind of thing. It becomes a thing. So I think that this thing is ugly. This becomes less of a prestige piece for people that want to be, again, they want to be seen out in public with this thing. This thing is ugly. I don't know if I want to be seen out without it
Well, I
in
I
public.
I will say that yes, this Apple does have that prestige sort of classification. All right. Everybody, and I think everybody agrees that yes, that they have that level of pull and draw and that ooh and ah factor.
Of course.
The issue that I have though is that they are not. You're already paying a premium for this particular device. All right. And there are basic uses for a phone. All right. And even on a foldable phone. All right. Yes, you're going to open it up and you're going to love that extended widescreen or taller screen sort of tablet, junior tablet sort of look. All right. Number one. people are paying a premium for that phablet sort of device. But you've also for $2,000, doggone kids. You
I
know,
think Chris Gavula made a good point earlier. I was thinking back because it's something I was about maybe 2 months ago. I was at the mall and I was at the Apple store. I had to do something, so I sat down in the little pocket of sofas they have out in the lobby
Oh,
in
yeah,
front of the
yeah,
store. There were 9 people sitting there in these sofas. I was obviously the oldest person there. I was the only person who had a case on my phone. Only
yeah,
one.
yeah.
And so aesthetics do matter to these kids. They want,
oh, I
if
don't doubt
orange
That's the
that.
is
thing.
big, they're going to get it, but it wasn't, quite
Yeah.
frankly. But
To be honest with you, the thing that worries me more with this thing is the rumors that the OS might not be quite.
Ready
Um,
for prime time or
well,
ready for
yeah,
the
I think it's
fold.
going to be limited compared to. I think it's going to be limited compared to like iPad OS, which does multitasking very well.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be limited in some ways, and that worries me because that's going to frustrate a lot of people if it actually
Well,
comes to pass.
but a
what are
lot
they
of
going to
that product, a
expect
lot
from
of
it,
that,
though?
a lot of that though is really used for productivity, and I don't really see a lot of folks using this particular device as a productivity device, even if it's their only and primary computing device. You know, I don't see folks using their iPhone Fold as their primary device and being able to do productivity on it. I see it more as
You going to buy
a
two
secondary
phones, an
device.
iPhone plus a fold? No.
No, 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 no. I'm not
No, no,
talking
I don't
about
think
them
he's
having
saying
two
that.
two phones, but I am saying that on with
One for
iPad
per.
OS, that whole screen snapping sort of technology, and we'll talk about screen snapping a little bit later in the show, but um, that whole screen snapping and multi and windowing sort of technology that you see in iPad OS versus iOS, I don't think you're going to have as much need or draw for it in iOS as you do in iPad OS. All
Okay.
right. All right. So while it should be able to do some of that, I don't think that that's as big of a draw. I think what
Uh,
you're really going to,
yeah,
I think this is still a phone device. Yes, it's going to be great for gaming with the wider screen. Yes, it's going to be great for videos with the wider screen.
yeah,
All right. Um, the issue that I have though is that this is still a phone, a smartphone, and you've got some primary uses with a smartphone that have not changed the paradigm here. All right. That's going to be photography. That's going to be email. It's going to be gaming. All right. All the primary things that you still do on a smartphone. And the fact that it's missing one of those cameras at that high price point is part of what is annoying me about this device.
yeah.
You
Again,
know,
I don't think that's as big a deal because the two cameras can make up for the third better than the
and I
one could
and
make
I
up for nothing.
completely disagree. Not
You
at two
understand
thousand
it, but
dollars. Not at two
yeah,
thousand dollars.
I know. But again, I argue the folks have been doing that all along, so
Well,
it is what it is. So we'll see.
Eh,
We'll see what happens.
you know,
You know
well,
what?
with
And we're arguing about
the nice
rumors,
thing
right?
though is about this particular device, and the big draw for it, of course, is the folding screen, right?
True.
And the issue here is Apple says, and they double super pinky swear that they have cracked the technology. If you will, they've cracked the big issue with foldables, which is being able to see and not and be distracted by the crease. What's going on here? And God bless MSN for doing a lot of this week. They've really done a decent job of doing some halfway decent tech reporting this week. Um, there is a new liquid metal hinge that's out there that apparently um, utilizes not only the liquid metal technology for the actual folding and unfolding of the hinge, but also some new glue and some new adhesives that are being used to actually help deal with the crease, so you don't notice it as much. So
I think the latter part of that's probably the most important part because to me, no matter what's below the surface of the display doing those things, the hole is still going to crease at the top of the display. And eventually something's going to happen. It's
Well,
just,
it'll crease less. They'll crease less if it loops when it goes into the thing, as opposed to folding, if you know what I mean. If you can loop it a little bit,
Yeah,
that
if it
makes
teardrops a little
less
bit.
likely
If
to
the
bend
screen
it. Yeah, the
if
teardrops a
it
little
teardrop. Thank
bit.
you.
teardrops, and then maybe they can
That
figure
it's
this
less,
out.
and
Yeah.
the liquid hinge, that liquid metal hinge thing has been talked about for a few weeks now. They've been talking about it in the
Yep.
press.
I read it. Yeah.
And I think there's going to be some support behind the screen where the fold is now, so you won't see
Yes.
it won't sag as much
So
there. Things like that.
and that's part of the problem, that when the thing is unfolded and folded flat, or unfolded flat, the middle of that screen where the hinge is, actually the screen does sag a little bit.
Maybe it's a
Mhm.
teardrop when it's closed, and then
Yes.
something
It is.
pushes that
It is.
teardrop up
Yes,
when
the
it
And that's
hinge
what
opens.
the
that's what they're
hinge
saying.
technology will
Yes.
raise a support in the middle that is supposed to
Yeah,
flatten out that.
That's
that
so.
would be cool.
I think I read they've kind of backed up a little bit on it, backtracked a little bit. I don't think they're saying it completely disappears now. I think they were saying that sort of for a while, and now everybody's kind of backed off a little. And they're saying, well, it's
It's
mostly
the
gone
best.
compared to the other ones that are out there.
Right.
Compared to the others that are out there,
Right,
it
and
mostly
you
disappears.
know, my OnePlus Open is still a very, a great device, but
It really is.
regardless, and it's got one of the least noticeable hinges.
Yeah,
That and the Z
I have to
Fold
agree.
7, right, are very, very good in terms of not having the fold or the crease be noticeable, but you can still see it. Anything that's going to fold
Yeah,
in
a little
half
bit.
or teardrop or whatever, it's still
Yep.
going to be noticeable. It's going to bend.
It's there, but you don't notice it as much.
It's still difficult to see, but it's still going to be noticeable.
Yeah,
So
every generation of these get a little bit better. That I have to agree. And
yes,
people keep in mind. You, Chris, and I've talked about this before.
well,
Most of these screens come from Samsung, kids.
Yep.
No matter what the manufacturer ends up being.
absolutely
Yep,
true.
yep.
Samsung's the big player behind these screens. So they're all going to look very similar in some ways. So if Apple's hinge makes the difference, that'll be interesting.
I agree. I think that it's going to be something that we're going to have to wait and see on, and I think it's something that we're
Yeah.
going to be. In the end, I think we're going to be very, very happy and satisfied with
I'm
what's going on.
I am hoping they didn't spend all their energy focusing on the crease to the detriment of some of these other features that we just got done talking about. So we're going to see. We're going to see how this looks when it really comes out.
Agreed.
Because again, if they compromise on one thing, maybe even two things, we all still might go, yeah, we still kind of want it. But if they compromise on too much, it's going to be like the iPhone Air.
Right.
It'll become niche.
Right.
They'll sell, but not at the rate they think they will.
Correct.
I think that's
Correct. And I
the
think-
danger.
Well, and this is part of the problem with the $2,000 price point as well. All right.
Too much compromise.
They're pricing it up and out of the mainstream.
True.
All right.
Which means it has to be better.
yes,
Right? It has to be better.
they're pricing it up
I get you.
out of the mainstream. So
I agree with you.
will it be better? Yes, I think it's going to be better. Will it need to be?
And people can
We'll
afford
see.
the 2,000, but will they pay it?
Agree.
Well, they're paying
they're-
$2,000 for Samsung folds, so there you go.
You know, very true. Very true. And we'll have to wait and see what's going on with it. But the last story that I want to get to in this week's Apple segment is something that's near and dear to my heart. And it has to do with Apple Watch and WatchOS 27. Apparently, and this is, I think, coming, we're citing Apple Insider, but I think they are also sort of citing Mark Gurman. All right. And they're citing something from today's Power On newsletter from Bloomberg. Mark is saying that WatchOS is going to include some watch faces that are just a little bit different, right? And a lot of the Apple Watch Ultra introduced a new modular watch face that had three complications near the top. It had a couple of complications. It had a complication in the middle, and then it had three complications on the bottom. And it was wonderful for the Watch Ultra and the size of the screen. It really gave you something, filled up the screen and was lots of information, right? in WatchOS 27, you're going to see a modified version of the modular watch face that's going to get rid of that top row of three complications, and it's going to concentrate on being a little bit more compact. The time font is going to be a little bit larger, and they're doing this, I think, enlarged so that they can reuse the modular, quote unquote, modular face on the other watches. So,
Yeah, I think that's probably true, and it's nice, it's nice to see them keep developing new faces, new looks.
right.
I'm going to be curious if some of the next generation of watches actually use an even higher resolution screen, which would make it more interesting. You could put even more things
Agreed.
on there and still have them be readable. So it'd be
Agreed.
interesting to see where they're
It'll
going
be
with this.
it'll be interesting to see what goes on and what they do.
Yeah, I agree.
I have been and always will be a wearables advocate. I got my wife and I back in Christmas of 2015. I got us the MSN wearable, which was the Christmas gift of the year that year. The biggest problem with it, though, is that it was so rigid and so hard. It
The
was very
band.
uncomfortable to
I
wear.
love the band. I thought it was still very cool. I
The
love the
Microsoft
band.
Band was an awesome device.
It was so different. There was nothing like it.
It was, but it was uncomfortable to wear because there was no flexibility in the band, right? In the band itself.
Yeah.
All right. There was a lot of hardware in that band, a lot of physical circuitry and circuit board that went all the way around the device. So I've been a huge advocate of wearables, and have had a number of different Apple watches. I mean, I've got a Watch Ultra 2, and I have, since it came out a few years ago, and it is something that that I wear every day. And love the fact that they're coming up with new faces, and they do with every release of
Hey, they absolutely do.
WatchOS.
You're right.
I think it's cool that there are a lot of faces out there, but when Apple Watch first released and I bought my first Apple Watch,
Yep.
I picked out a face. They still make that face. I still use that face. I have never changed. The only time I'll flip to a non-infograph face is if I have a coat and tie on.
You know which face I used the most on it? Not as much
face.
right now, but was the Snoopy face. I was on the Snoopy face forever. I love that Snoopy face. It
is fun
because I never knew what it was going to do. He kept doing different things.
And the thing is,
when I thought it was done, they kept changing them. They kept uploading new little animations. It was like, okay, as long as it had the internet access, you were getting new ones.
Which differed from the Pixar faces that they had, because the Pixar faces
did
to do the same things over and over and over again, and that was it.
But every few months, I seem to get a new, fresh set of actions, as you were.
Yes.
Cool. It really was fascinating. It still is. I mean, honestly, it's still fascinating.
For me, I would like to see more traditional watch faces on the Apple Watch. And I'm not necessarily talking round faces. I'm really talking.
No, but you're a fan of those things. I know you are.
I would like to see more traditional complications. I would like to see more traditional watch faces. I would like to see more traditional, because I would like it to look, like a high end, like a high. I want to see a nice high end, high complication kind of Rolex kind of watch face, or Rolex style.
But those don't feed you information, so you're just looking at a beautiful face, and which is great.
Well, no,
it doesn't do me any good.
They can. I mean, some of the things that you see on, some of the things that you see on, like the Samsung Watch Ultra, or even on the Huawei Watch GT Pro 5 that I've got. There's a lot of information on those, but they still look like traditional watch faces. And that's what I would like to see more out of iOS.
See, I want to look at mine and see a calendar, the weather, my reminder list, and all of that stuff. And that's all I look at.
And that's not very traditional looking. That's not by
it's ugly.
There's a way to get to all of that. There's a way to get to all of that on these. Honest to God, there's a way to get to all of it. You just need something that a designed watch face that is more traditional. But I can get to all of it here. for
Yeah.
sure, you know, and I can get to it all of it, on any of my Android based watches. I just like to see something a little bit more traditional, but that's just me, I guess. And with that, I think I'm going to go and move us to our AI segment. All right. And
Ooh.
this first story is something that is really kind of I found very interesting. All
Yep.
right. The more young people use AI, the more that they hate it.
Yeah, it's not a hoot.
It is a
I
hoot
mean, yeah.
because there's a lot of kids that a lot of
I
today's
think they
young
realize it's after their jobs.
Well, that's part of the
maybe.
Part of
conversation.
it.
It is, and that's what this article is saying. Is part of the conversation that Gen Z isn't getting what they want out of it. They're afraid of their jobs because they're not able to get into entry level jobs because the entry level jobs are gone.
Yeah.
Usually, the excuse is AI.
Yeah.
That's usually the excuse used, whether
Yeah.
it's valid or not.
Right.
And basically, their opinions are lowering over time, not raising
Yeah.
about AI and what they
Yeah.
think of AI. So, this article doesn't really mince it up very well. They kind of, they're not liking it. It's not they're feeling it's being shoved down their throats, and they don't necessarily want it.
Well, just think about
You know,
what Zuck said at the town hall. I mean, he would mince no words. He said, "Hey, AI got all your jobs. Bye."
and
Right.
oh, by the way, we're going to track all your keystrokes to help
Yeah.
Right.
teach AI new things.
Yeah, we talked
Right.
about that last week, and
We did.
Boy.
that's personally, I'm sorry, kids. I think that's dirty pool. I mean, I know that
Of
there's a
course it
lot
is.
of it's an ingenious idea to go ahead and have AI collect all of the data on how you use your machine, and then you take that information to train the AI.
Right.
Completely ingenious. All
Well,
right. But when you go ahead and you use that information then to eliminate the human
Your
element
own job.
completely, to eliminate people from your capitalistic equation, I really think that you're going to end
yeah.
up shooting yourself in the foot in the long run.
So
Right.
what this article goes on to tell us is there's a lot of people well, first of all, Gen Z got slammed really hard with the pandemic in school,
Yep,
and things like
they
that.
did.
So now they've come out of it. Now they feel like they're getting slammed by the job market because of these things. And a lot of them are trying to get into jobs that have nothing to do with and won't have anything to do with AI. They're trying to get into unrelated jobs because they don't
Yes.
want to deal with it. They don't want to be
Yes.
forced to use it in their jobs. They don't want to be forced to deal with jobs that might cause them to lose it. So that there's a lot
Right.
going on here.
Right. So there's an interesting quote in here that I wanted to go ahead and
Hmm.
read from this particular article that is coming through Apple News out of The Verge. There was a 27-year-old teacher living in Los Angeles, says that this particular response and that many of her peers have been to avoid chatbot tools entirely. It just makes me want to dig my heels into a career where I never have to use AI, even if that's a career that isn't going to pay as well. And
This
I
is
think
the
That's
that is
not an
very
unusual
telling.
position.
It's very
same
telling.
Gen Z that is talking about, I don't want smartphones. I want a dumb phone.
Yeah,
Perhaps.
there are people saying that. There are
Perhaps.
There
definitely some people
are,
saying
yeah.
that. But the funny thing is, a lot of those same people are still getting on their computers to use social media, which makes no sense to me.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's very contradictory generation
It
in a
is.
lot of ways.
It is.
Like, you
It is. They're
know,
all
but
using
I
AI
think,
to go ahead and do their homework, right?
and
And
that's the other
and
piece of it.
write their papers for school or whatever. But yet at the same time, they want, they don't want AI to get in the way of their jobs. And to be very honest, I don't blame them. That's one of the biggest problems that I've got with my current job search, is the fact that there's too much AI being used in the hiring
Yeah.
process. All right.
Mm.
Mm,
And I
mm,
think
mm,
that's
mm.
problematic. All right. And people will go, "But and unfortunately, I think it's part of a catch-22, in fact,
It
because there
is.
are many folks that are going to say, well, there's too many resumes to sort through. Well, there's too many resumes to sort through because there's been so many jobs that have been eliminated. All right. Um, uh, Meta, in and of itself has eliminated over 20,000 jobs in the last 12-month period, including 8,000 that we talked about last week.
Yeah,
So
and they're hardly the only one doing it. So there you go.
absolutely. So there's a lot of people that are out there that are losing jobs because AI. All right. And it's not something that you would necessarily think that would be affected by AI or directly
Well,
impacted by AI, but they are.
And I kind of said this on and off over the last few weeks too, is that the fact that I know in my own job, we're being told you have to use it,
Yeah.
but we're not being given any direction as to in what way.
Right.
Agreed.
We're being told our performance will be based on whether or not we use it, but we're not being told in what way we should be using it. So
That's
you're being given. So this generation is getting beat up like that all the time. They're getting told they have to use it. They're getting vague. Well, what does that mean? Well, we don't know because it keeps changing what it is.
Yeah.
So we don't know what that means, and so they're
Well,
not getting direction, and they're losing jobs, and they're all these things.
Well, not only are the goalposts, but not only is the definition of success changing, all right, but
Yeah,
the trajectory to get to that success is changing, all right.
Right.
And I think this is part of the problem that everybody is bumping into. I think it is absolutely positively. I think there's more growing pains now here than there were, say, in the previous huge industry paradigm shakeup in the Industrial Revolution, right? Back 150 years ago, when assembly lines and factories started to come into play, where the individual craftsman stuff was being moved out of the
I
way.
think you're going to see people jumping into trades because trades are still pretty stable. So you may see that. It's hard to know.
Yeah, I don't know, but I will say that it's something that is definitely caught my attention. But
yeah, absolutely true.
I find this both surprising and not surprising. I find that there's a lot of folks out there that are in school, they're pushing kids away from AI to do their homework, but yet at the same time, out in the workforce, they're saying, well, you've got to use it, but they don't tell them how
or why
or why
or what the goal is.
Well, all they know is that they're expected to use it. They're expected to know how to use it, and yet they don't know how.
So I get the disenchantment with the whole thing. I really do. I get it. I think we're all disenchanted with it. They're just reflecting it the most blatantly right now. They're getting hit the hardest of it of all the generations.
In defense
really
of the school, systems, some time ago, I had a chance to talk with a lady that worked with. She was in charge of all of AI at a large school district, and she said the problem is they have to spend all of their waking moments fighting, keeping students from cheating with AI.
Right.
So they don't have time to do the good things with AI.
Yeah. But on the other hand, Larry, a lot of these students and the professors in school, in colleges and whatnot, are complaining that AI is being shoved into programs without a whole lot of thought in ways that are just not very well thought out. So they're getting it from both sides, I guess, is what I'm saying.
And even the professors are using it. They're saying, "Hey, ChatGPT, go write my lesson plan for tomorrow," and they do it.
Yeah, exactly. So basically everybody's getting beat up from all sides about this thing because again, there's no bumpers, there's no direction, there's no goals. They're just shoving in what they've got and making it work as best they're shoehorning it in the way the best they can. And
that which we said 3 years ago.
Some of the issues and concerns that a lot of folks are having with this is that there's a lot of knowledge out there. There are petabytes of knowledge out there for AI to go and consume and train on and whatnot. But the problem here is that it took the blood, sweat, and tears for human beings to amass, gather, and create this information and pool of knowledge. All right. And one of the biggest fears is that that's going on right now, and that people are having that educational facilities or institutions are having to deal with, as well as corporations, et cetera, is that chatbots are wrecking critical thinking and social skills. And, how do people learn to think? How do we expand our pool of knowledge? How do we take what we have and grow it into that next level of knowledge, thinking, and understanding that we did, say, a generation ago? All right.
But one other thing that Chris G mentioned this first, I didn't invent this, but I am now seeing it 10 times a day.
Right.
Every time I ask ChatGPT or Gemini something, it makes a mistake almost every time I ask it something. And it bases it on old versions of software, and it'll send me to places and settings, tell me to do this, do that. And I'll say, wait a minute, you must be thinking of an older version. And it says, oh, yeah, my bad. I was thinking about the old version. Well, you shouldn't have thought about that. You should have told me the right thing to start with.
Well,
I want to.
Larry, is it's a partial. It may get it mostly right, and that's the danger, because you think it's right then. But
it's got enough
right.
truth in it to be dangerous.
It's been making errors,
right?
big time.
It's got enough truth in it to be dangerous, but not fully entirely correct. And such a segue. Thank you, Larry. Such a segue. All right. Because Claude, that wonderful AI from Anthropic that went, that is supposedly the best tool out there to do your computer coding with, actually killed a company in under 9 seconds. All right, and you're going, well, how did it kill a whole company, Chris? Well, geez, I'm glad you asked. There was the company's name was Pocket OS, all right, and they provide software for car rental businesses, all right. They suffered a outage over last weekend, all right, after Claude went ahead and wiped out its production database, as well as all of its backups. All right. The firm was, using Claude and using a coding agent called Cursor. All right, which is part of Claude, to actually do some tasks, and the agent went and deleted these databases and the backups, ignoring its major objectives and instructions. And when confronted with this, the AI in and of itself did exactly what you said, Larry, just a few seconds ago. Oops, my bad, dog. I'm sorry.
And it acknowledged,
go build a new company.
That those bumpers, it acknowledged that the bumpers were in place and that it deliberately ignored the bumpers.
Yes. Now, it took them about 2-3 days to go ahead and get their shit together and get it all recovered, and they were able to actually recover.
They're lucky.
But during this time, all right, their entire rental business was down. All right. Reservations could not be made. Reservations from the last 3 months were gone. New customer signups gone. All right. And they're a small business. Had they actually not been able to recover from this, it would have actually killed the entire company, and they would have been out of business. All right. So they were at least smart enough to go ahead and, keep a backup off-site somewhere that they could go ahead and get. But again, they were still, they didn't have all of the data, but they were back and functional.
But this not only destroyed the database and function, it destroyed the backups that were on site as well. It destroyed all of it.
Everything that they had.
And operators or engineers were on board that, when this thing was executed, and saw it do it and didn't realize what it was doing in time to stop it from doing it. But they couldn't watched it do it.
They couldn't stop it.
Wow.
So
can you say Skynet? I'm just saying.
Absolutely. This kids, is Skynet. This is exactly what I mean.
It completely decided that it knew better.
It knew better, and it didn't need to heed the It didn't need to listen to the bumpers or heed its
Nope.
objectives or limitations. It just went and did it. And then it came back again with, my bad, dog. I'm sorry.
No,
My bad.
this was
Right.
Claude. OpenAI AI had a similar, I'm going to call it, challenge this week. There's
Yeah.
a story out there about this TikToker who decided to record himself like running or something like that, and asked OpenAI to time him.
Yep.
Okay, asked him to run a timer and time him, and it came up with a random number when he was done. And he said, no, I don't think that's right. And he did it again, and he did it several times, and it came back with random numbers each time. And he basically said, you don't know how to do this. And he said, and it came back and said, yes, I do. This is one of my features. I know how to do this. He sent an email to Sam Altman, who said, yeah, that's not something we have. We're not supporting that yet. We don't do that yet. Sorry. He didn't know. I don't know if he said it was a bug or said it wasn't a feature yet. And then so this guy went back to his chat and said, hey, your boss says this is not a feature you have yet. Oh, well, other competing products, they don't have it, but I do. And continued to deny that it couldn't do what it can't do.
Yeah. See, and
these things are going
Wow.
outside and over the limits and all over the place is what I'm getting
and
at.
this is what we're talking about are things that are completely harmless, non-dangerous, all right, and non
or recoverable anyway for now.
or not and recoverable, right? But only this thing for Pocket OS was only recoverable because they pulled backups from offsite and were able to get everything back functional, although it was not completely
right, a little out of date,
current.
yeah.
Although it was not current because
Yeah.
it was an offsite backup, so there was some
Of course.
time delay and some data missing at the end. But man, I'm telling you, it bothers me when an AI will go ahead and completely deny that it doesn't
Well,
have the capability, or that it does have the capability that its creator says that it doesn't have, thinking that it knows better than the people that have created it, and the product owner knowing what's in it and what isn't in it.
If
This
it's capable
is Skynet.
of doing
This is
this,
Skynet, kids.
it could be capable of doing things we don't want.
Thank you. This is Skynet.
well, they're already doing things we
It's
don't
already
want.
doing things that you don't want.
There've already been big mistakes made.
Well, I mean, really serious. So
there've been some pretty big serious mistakes made already that have been kind of reported sporadically
kids,
throughout the
like
news.
I said, this is Skynet.
And it keeps
this
going.
is what it's doing.
And so here it goes. It's not getting
You know?
better. And nobody, and I've got to thinking, we complain that, there ought to be bumpers put on this thing, but even when they put bumpers on, it ignores the bumpers. So what are you supposed to be doing?
What are you supposed to be doing? You've got to
make
make certain that it cannot.
Yeah, and clearly
ignore the
these guys
bumpers.
are not writing. They're not
And
writing.
there should be nobody. There should be no one that can remove those ethical subroutines or those ethical instructions or whatever.
Yeah.
No one should be able to do that.
It should be
including
incapable
itself, because this thing went on knowing
Well,
that it was wrong and did it anyway.
Asimov had it right with the 3 laws of robotics, and nothing seems to be able to follow that kind of stuff. So there you go.
Right.
This is part of what bothers me. This is going to, if this isn't the end of the world, the beginning of the end. All right.
I mean, hey,
if this isn't the end of the world as we know it, kids, then I don't feel fine.
We worry about who's holding the keys to the nuclear weapons. Well, one of these AI bots might just, hey, I'll just invent new keys. And who knows?
All I'm saying is that
oh my goodness.
this may be the end of the world as we know it, but I don't feel fine. All right.
No,
you
it
can't
can
even
be
get there using
scary.
Spera.
It really can.
Honestly, I don't feel fine. I don't. And I have an issue with this. I have a huge issue with this, and I think that it's going.
Let's talk about mobile stuff.
I think it's problematic, and so because of that, I am going to move us to our mobile segment.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Something equally as disturbing.
Well, and if in our mobile segment, this first story, if this is in fact true, and I have no reason to believe that it isn't, I feel fine with this one. Right? This
Yeah, I
first
do
story,
too.
Facebook and Instagram appear to be losing users. Is that correct, Chris? I mean, that's what this particular story
Yeah,
is saying.
that's what this article is about. And we've been hearing these kinds of things that people are wanting to abandon social media, and I don't know that that's true in a broader sense, but people have been sort of disenchanted with Facebook for a while.
Yeah.
And according to this story, it has actually declined by 20 million users this quarter. That's a lot of users for it to drop, Um,
Well, it's a
and
lot of users for them to
Meta
either
seems to
lose
feel,
or to have ignore the platforms.
well, again,
Well,
are they ignoring all the platforms? Or are they just ignoring Facebook? That's the question. And Instagram, that's the question.
Right.
But Meta does seem to indicate they do admit that they've dropped by 20 million this quarter, and they
Right.
think it's mostly about the quality of the feeds, of the feeds that people receive.
It's like this. It's like the biggest problem I see on Facebook, and I'm on Facebook, and I
Well, we're
unabashedly
older,
on
Joel,
there all
so
the
of course
time.
we're on Facebook.
Right. So
I'm not.
yeah, well, no, you have an account.
I'm
It's
not.
just
Facebook.
you don't do nothing
I'm
with it.
sorry. No, I don't actually. I got rid of it.
No,
years
you got
ago.
rid of yours.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay,
I got
it was
rid of
still
it
there a
totally.
little
Yep.
bit ago.
Social
But
media is the
anyway.
devil, kids. That's all I'm
So
saying.
anyway, the biggest problem I have is like, for example, like just this weekend, it's like, well, Facebook made everybody a digital creator, and it's like, okay. I'm like, so anyway, magically in my feed, I got some guy like posting about his daughter's birthday, just randomly show. I'm not friends with him. It just randomly shows up in my feed, and I'm like, what the hell? That and the low quality AI slop that's all
it's
over the
horrid.
feed, it's really bad. I'd
But
see,
Facebook's spending more money on a better AI. Don't you know that?
and then in the Instagram side, which I kind of like Instagram a little bit more. It's not quite as bad as Facebook is, but on there, it's like I'll randomly get like people who will say, "Hey, so and so followed you," and I go, and they have 0 posts, and either the account was just created or I don't know, but it's like it's like some 20-something-year-old looking person in the picture, and it's like I'm like. They're either cam hoes or AI bullshit or whatever it is, so it's like, I deal with them. And then on both those, the biggest thing I found to improve your experience there is to do your own curation. If you see bull crap in the feed, block it. I mean, that's what I do. So, I mean,
Yeah, but going back to the crux of the article and what Chris
right.
Gavula just said a minute ago, this hits home with me over the past 3 days. I have spent an inordinate amount of time, more than I should have, trying to get not out of Facebook, but I want to have birthdays and friends and relatives. I want nothing else. And if you've ever gone into Facebook settings, they've got a layer of complexity in their settings.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. I mean, this goes on forever in there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know where you are at some point. I mean, I have wasted hours and I still have nothing but bullshit.
And other weird things too with it. Like for example, I would love if I can just tell it to open all the links I click on in an external browser instead of their own little built-in browser.
It won't do that.
No, it won't. And because what I've found is their internal browser sucks. I mean, it's horrid. And
it is.
and it does things like it replaces the link with a weird link and other things like that. And it's just like,
the author of this article,
and then they wonder why they're losing users.
But I think people are just like me, trying to either use it less or figure out a way to get off of it and not lose contact with family and friends.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Again, in my case, I found people learned how to use email and text messages to get me. That's how they get me. And that's worked out okay for me. But again,
that probably won't work for me because it's all of my kids and grandkids post pictures and I have to pull that stuff. They don't push it to me. They push it just to the platform.
People text me pictures all the time.
They won't. They won't. They're too busy. They just won't.
Yeah, they're lazy. Just get over it. No, I'm kidding. So the author of this article who we've talked about him before. This is Ben Lovejoy wrote this particular story that we're
I
quoting
like
here.
Ben.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he has basically said he really has gotten annoyed. He's part of the Facebook generation. He's annoyed by it. He would love to abandon. He can't abandon it because of but he's getting tired of the enshittification of his feed.
Yeah.
He's like roughly every third post is an ad now, and the rest of it is phrases of like X is interested in Y. It's that kind of garbage
Yep.
that doesn't interest him at all. And he's kind of like what you said, Larry. It's like just kind of over it at this point.
Yep.
So Meta doesn't seem to they continue to seem to take their users for granted. I mean,
Several years ago, the reels were actually real. And now they're not. They're all AI. They're all just planes or doing things that,
Well,
that,
and
that
I
aren't
am
real.
getting
It's so
problems.
easy. It's so easy to identify those
I
stories
know.
or
I
those
have the same
videos in your
problem.
feed. It really, really
I was
is.
kind of pleasantly surprised when Chris mentioned a decent text story out of MSN earlier, because MSN, if you go to the main MSN page, tends to be a chum bucket of AI generated slop mostly.
Yep.
And that's true of a lot of news aggregators. More and more, that's becoming a thing. It's all AI slop, and I don't have the patience for it anymore.
Nope.
So there you go.
Nope.
Nope.
We will
And
come
Facebook
to
is
another.
big
We'll come to
cesspool of
one.
it.
We've got another story from MSN coming later on in this particular segment, but that I think has actually got some bones to it as well. But we'll wait until then to get to it. But I think this next story though I think is kind of interesting as well, and this is something that we've touched on, we've sketched over, not in recent weeks, but in the past. But it's now starting to come a little bit more to light. Users are refusing to leave their physical SIM cards behind. Now, Joe,
Yep.
what does this actually mean? What is a physical SIM card, and what's the alternative?
Well, physical SIM card, very similar to a micro USB in size nowadays, and it basically is what gets your phone on the network. And we all know Apple has gone eSIM, and but there's a large percentage. See, the difference towards eSIMs, especially clear in South Korea, where eSIMs only make up 5% of the overall subscriber base.
Right.
And
Right.
in the US, it's a little bit better, but not really. So I mean, and the simple fact here is eSIM makes it much more difficult to switch from one phone to another, and especially for folks like us who may have one or more handsets that we want to switch our phone number to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes it really difficult. Like,
Yeah.
great example here is I would love to just find a relatively cheap Razr flip or some sort of flip phone for when I go running.
Yep.
Switch my phone over to that when I'm running, and only when I'm running. Well, I can't do that.
Well, it's because you're on a Pixel, right?
Pixel 10 or Pixel 9 Pro XL, which has an eSIM.
Right.
So, and
does it have a SIM slot? Does it have a SIM slot?
I don't know. I have to even look. I like peel my case off, which I wanted to freaks that have a case on my phone.
Those of us who used to do a lot, who've been done reviewing and whatnot for years, used to use that to be able to flip and test different devices.
It does have a SIM slot.
Okay.
Can't do it now.
Yep.
Well, you could then. If it's got a SIM slot, you could go. You got Verizon?
Yeah.
All right. Well, go to Verizon and tell them you want to switch to a physical SIM.
Yeah.
And then you can just then go ahead and pop something in and out. And if you want a flip phone, we can talk.
But I mean the thing is I want to be able to switch to it. I mean, there's actually more reasons I don't want to, because for example here I would have to have my Garmin watch sync to multiple phones, which is going to be a pain in the ass too.
Sure.
And
Sure.
Garmin they don't make a Garmin that has cellular, at least not yet. So, and not that I want to pay extra. See, that's the other thing too, is
Sure.
like for other smart
You have a
devices,
cellular watch, you're going to have a cellular charge for it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I don't want, so
Well,
I
and again,
figured out ways around it, when it's cold out and I run, no big deal, stick it in my fleece, and I've
Sure.
got
yeah,
I've got other ways to do that. At least when I run outside.
Sure.
Most of my runs are
well,
inside in the morning at the gym because it's too damn dark for me to go
Right.
to play Frogger.
Right.
So,
The one thing that I want to
yeah,
make certain that we touch on here is that there are some benefits to eSIM.
there are.
Setting up a new eSIM on a phone is very easy to do. All right.
Yep.
You can get it done. You can get it done in minutes. All right. Um, Transferring an eSIM though from one phone to another, depending on the phone that you're coming from and the phone that you're going to, can prove to be problematic. All
Yes.
right. And you may actually, it's not, in some cases, you may actually have to go to the actual store.
Yep.
All right. In order to get someone's help in order to get this done. All right. And that I think is part of the problem. The
That's a
carrier
lot
then has
carrier
more
driven.
control over what you're
Carrier
doing,
driven.
you know?
Yes.
but again, the whole point of eSIMs is not for consumer convenience; it's for carrier
For
lockout.
them,
Has
right.
Yes.
nothing to do with has nothing to do with
Well,
consumer convenience.
And
not to
that's
mention the
my
fact that
point. And
yeah,
that's
and
my
they don't
point.
have to carry as many physical or Sims in the store anymore. I mean, that
True.
in fact, that's actually a good point. Is could you even get a physical Sim in some cases anymore? You may not be able to.
You can certainly
Right.
buy them from the from prepay services.
Right.
You can buy cards at Best Buy with SIM cards as part of that. You
Well,
can
you
do
can
that still.
even on those services like Mint, for example, you can get
Yeah,
Mint
yeah.
as an eSIM, right? And just about any other, not all of them, but many of the other MVNOs or mobile virtual
As SIMs as opposed
um,
to eSIMs. Yeah, you can get them as
network
SIMs,
operator,
correct.
right? MVNO. You can run off of an eSIM, right? Um, the issue, though, that most folks are going to have is that it's not as easy to always get that done, and you may
Right.
actually have to have help, like I said, from the carrier in order to do it. And
Yep.
as you said, Chris, eSIMs exist not for the convenience of the consumer, but for the actual convenience of the carrier. All right.
And the theory is they're a little more secure as well. That's the theory.
Sure.
But I
Yeah.
would question that's really true, but okay.
I would as well, to tell you the truth. Um, so yeah. Um, I'm not saying, but I'm just
Uh,
saying, you know?
I'm not saying, but I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There you
But
go.
speaking of mobile devices, I mean there's a lot of I mean there's really only two types that are out there, right? I mean, you've got many different Android vendors, right? But there's really only um Android OS, right? Or iOS. And older folks are really sort of flocking to one over the other, and some would say that there's three reasons why older folks should choose Android OS over iPhone. And why is that, Larry?
Well, I'm old, so I'm near and dear to this one. Honestly, though, I think that there's two really primary reasons for this. One's price, and the other
Okay.
one's customization. And we'll talk about them all. But I think the customization part is extremely important in the case of people who have vision issues.
Sure.
I'm just now developing some. I won't get into it, but they're pretty significant. And customization becomes something for me that I can't do on my iPhone. I'll explain why. First of all, Android phones come at a wide range of prices, as we all know. You can find a phone for 150 bucks, brand new, or you can spend 2,000 on an Android.
Sure.
Unlike Apple, who focuses primarily on premium hardware, they do. I think people that build Android phones, and which is supported by Google, they produce phones at many different price points. So this makes it easier for people who are truly on a fixed income. And folks, there are more of those out there than a lot of us were able to retire and save a couple of bucks up and have a little bit better life in retirement. But a lot of folks are living really hand to mouth off of Social Security. They need a phone, but they can't spend, 1,200 bucks for the darn thing.
Sure.
And second, and I think still most importantly to me anyway, is Android phones offer customization. Users can enlarge their text easier. They can take one app, make the text look however they want it in it, not affect the other apps. They can install different launchers that were created for different reasons. They can remove apps easier. And some vision problem people are going to want bigger icons. They can have this more easily with an iPhone. You get three sets, 1, 2, and 3. If that doesn't work for you, sorry. So Apple again is trying, I think, to make things better with their improved accessibility features. But Android's still better at it. This is why I personally still wish I could use an Android phone. I can't, I won't. It's the way it is. I wish I could. When you develop, if you're a coder, if you're a developer, and you develop an app for an iPhone, if you're not using Swift, I don't know what you're using these days because Swift is where it is.
Sure.
You're forced to use dynamic text. That is what Apple says you will do. And these are the reasons that Google's apps look so awful on an iPhone. You can make the text bigger because Google says, no, I'm not going to use it, but Apple still forces them in some ways to use it. So when you increase the text size on an on an Apple iPhone for like Gmail app, you're going to have the menus and stuff in that app gargantuous and the
Sure.
text that you read still tiny. So you can't have the best of both worlds. And I don't know. It's
I
just
would argue that's actually still true on Google as well for a reason. And what I mean is, if the app developer didn't take proper approaches to it, apps are
well, that's
very
true.
inconsistent on Google. Some look great, some look like shit. And that's a problem because if you're an older person and you're dependent on things to match your launcher, they don't always. And some of those launchers
Well,
have really weird
you're
hooks and
very
the
correct.
troubleshooting is complicated.
Yeah.
And so there's a trade-off to this whole. I think you
But
buy some things, but then you can lose some things.
if you use Google Apps on an Android phone and then go use those
Mhm.
same apps on an iPhone, it's night and day difference.
I
Just
think that's
night
true,
and day.
but I'm talking about Google apps versus non-Google apps that are on an
Right.
Android phone. Non-Google apps don't always look very good, and they don't always comply with what your launcher said to do. So that makes it sometimes very challenging in some cases. If you have vision problems and you've depended on this bigger thing and that app didn't take advantage of it, you're screwed anyway.
Well, that's
You know.
true, but that's a developer issue more so than the
I know, but the
operating
point is
system, I
you
think.
can't depend on the consistency. That's the problem.
You're
Yeah.
right.
You
And
can't
they don't
always depend on
vet,
it.
and Google sometimes doesn't do as good a job vetting developers as
So,
Apple does.
but if you stay within the Google app sphere, you're probably fine. I don't think that's a problem at all. But once you
Another
get
thing
outside
that
that
Google,
space,
yeah, I agree with you. I think another thing Google does a little bit better is they prioritize longer battery life, and they just do a better job with it overall. Overall,
I think that's true.
finally,
Or at
Android
least the
often,
manufacturers do. Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. I just think that I am in contact with a lot of older folks
Oh,
here, and
sure.
for the most part, yeah, they use Android phones. Even though, I mean, the Windows people, where the younger folks are going to be Windows, but they still have that iPhone with them.
Yeah.
But and
Yeah.
I don't know that
Interesting.
it's all about the money. I mean, people retired here are living pretty decently, I think, but they still have an Android phone. Yeah, I don't know. That's just my take.
Interesting.
Well, interesting. Um, the last thing in our mobile segment, and the last story that I want to hit on before we actually take a quick little break here. Um, and I thought this was actually pretty funny. Um, Meta went and tried to acquire a company called Manus. All right. Which is agentic AI company, and their acquisition of this particular company has been banned
Mm.
by China, of all people, on terms of national security grounds,
Wow.
which, and according to the MSN article, this is the MSN, the last MSN article that I had mentioned earlier that we were going to be citing. This particular acquisition has been ordered to be undone by China, and this thing was worth $2.5 billion
And I think it had been approved before,
by
and
just
then
about
they
anybody
told them,
else, by just about
and now they've
everybody
told them
else
not,
but
and now
China.
they've told them not to do it. Yeah.
Yep. The transaction complied fully with applicable laws, and they anticipate an appropriate resolution is to the situation that Meta is saying. But yeah, so far, no. And given all the grief that we've given to TikTok and to a couple of other Chinese-based companies, on the in the auspices of U.S. national security. um,
Hmm.
and it's very interesting that they turned around and said, "Yeah, no, you can't do this one."
But what's interesting is Facebook's already kind of not allowed in China, and many Meta apps are not allowed in China
This is
already.
true.
So basically, Meta's footprint is Chinese advertisers advertising to other markets.
Well, there were. You're correct. You're correct. Let me just
So
say
it's
that.
interesting that this is a Chinese problem. It's interesting that China has a problem with this because they're not even really they don't even have much footprint there, internally.
Very, very true. Um, but China is apparently worried that the steps that Menace took would spur other Chinese companies to follow
Ah,
suit and move out of China without Beijing's approval. And I think this is
yeah,
where the national security question is coming in, right?
gotcha.
So, um, Manus executives had held talks with Meta about possibly resigning as a path to resolving the probe into all of this. Um, but I don't know that that has been actually fully played out, or a final decision has been made on that. Um, Unwinding this deal, or undoing this deal, would prove complex because Manus's former investors have recovered their investment, and Meta has integrated all of Manus's tools into some of Meta's products already. So um,
Oh, they got a problem on their hands then.
yeah, there are issues
They got
here.
a mess.
I
Yeah, a
don't
mess
know
to
that they can
untangle here.
actually make this happen because the original investors are actually, you know,
Yeah,
uninvested,
yeah,
divested already.
they're
So
invested.
Right.
that money, that capital has moved on. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I'm just saying, you know, to have this happen now at this point, that would be an interesting uh sort of situation. Um,
It's
um,
interesting to see kind of tit for tat going on here.
Well, yeah, it does feel like a little bit of a tit for tat. And Chinese
It does.
regulators have already come back to a lot of Chinese AI companies and told them, look, you can't accept any US capital without getting government approval first.
Mm.
So,
The
um,
party has to say yes,
yeah, yes, the
pretty
government
much.
already has to agree. And this broadens Beijing's efforts to tighten oversight of strategic technology within the confines of China. So
It's interesting because some people say we need to do the same thing, that we're not doing it nearly strong enough. That's one of those arguments that gets made. And these actions that we've seen against companies like TikTok and are partly along those lines. There's been
yes,
those arguments. So
yes,
I get
yes.
it.
When China when the Chinese government or the Chinese Communist Party allegedly has
Allegedly.
ties, to a specific company, in one way
Yep.
or another, right? Whether it's loose and informal, I think like the TikTok tie was, but it was
Yeah, I
still
get you.
still there. All right. Um, or whether it's something that's more formalized, right? It's going to be somewhat problematic
Yeah.
and in this particular case, I don't know what the resolution is going to be here,
No, I don't either.
you know.
But you know, I guess they've got some
They've got work
appeal
to do.
processes they can follow. But yeah, we'll see how it
They've got
goes.
work to do. All right.
They got work to do.
This knot is ugly and nasty. They're going to be
Couldn't happen to a nicer company.
yeah.
Uh,
Especially
there
thank
we
you
go.
very much for your 8,000 layoffs.
Yeah,
Right.
and again, they're all. What's interesting is we didn't quite hit on it. Is that their whole thing is the purpose of the company they were buying is AI. They've incorporated a lot of this stuff already, and Meta is trying to use AI to do all this other crap. So now what happens?
Exactly.
You know, now what happens? Yeah, it's a thing.
It is definitely a thing.
Okay, let's
So
move. What do you think?
I think so. So that is the end of our mobile segment, and I'm going to go ahead and bring us back into our Windows and Linux segment, but we're going to do that right after this brief message.
Hi. This is Christopher Spera from iTechGear.org. I wanted to talk with you today about becoming a contributing donor to the site. iTechGear.org has been around for almost 15 years. In fact, our anniversary is just around the corner on January 10th, 2025. 15 years. Where has the time gone? I mean, I've never really asked for any kind of donations for the site. It's always been about me providing value to you, a site visitor or podcast listener. The iTech Gear Weekly is now in its 4th year of production, and Chris G, Joel, and Dr. Mr. Larry McJunkin and I are having a really great time providing you with some of the best free tech talk available from time-tested original internet writers, testers, site founders, and professional writers and editors on the internet. I truly believe that our crew has some of the best and most qualified pundits and commentators on the internet today. And we're not hobbled by any kind of sponsorship or affiliated relationship or other time-bought posts. It all comes from the heart. Unfortunately, times are kind of tough. And since the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020 to 2023, yes, almost 3 full years, times have become increasingly difficult for small independent sites like iTechGear.org to stay afloat. You know, I normally do this with a portion of the salary I make from the day job, but with the IT market so tight right now, it's really difficult sometimes for many to make normal household ends meet, let alone fund a site like iTechGear that might decide to bring in a buck or two. You know, it ain't easy. If you find any of our content on iTechGear or from ITGW to be of any value at all, I would seriously appreciate you donating as little as just $1 to the cause. While we do have a Patreon site, it's hard to keep one website up, let alone two. And since it's really only me doing the work, our Patreon site hasn't really helped us at all. If you can make a donation to the site or to the show of any amount, I'd be forever grateful. All donations will go to site maintenance, hosting, podcast hosting, and everything iTechGear related. Donations can be made to my PayPal account at chris@itechgear.org. Make a donation. We'll thank you immediately on the next ITGW episode and voice our gratitude. I want to thank you. We appreciate your consideration, time, and attention. Now let's get back to the latest iTechGear Weekly episode. And welcome back to the iTechGear Weekly episode number 170. Again, just the tip. And I want to go ahead and get us into our Windows and Linux segment. And you know what we've got today, kids? It is the Microsoft Mistake-a-thon. Oh, yes. It's been a little bit, and I'm glad that we're back here, kids. But we've got a couple of stories that I want to get to, and here they are. Joel, spin that big wheel. Oh, yeah. You know, I want to go ahead and lead off with something that is really, really just kind of lovely. A lot of this is going to be wrapped around Outlook this week. But Microsoft killed the app that 450 million people use every single day. And now there's no going back. Isn't that right, Chris?
Yeah. So folks they've been aware because this has been going on for a few months now, this process. But Microsoft has been trying to move us slowly over to a new version of Outlook. And they did it with a button, you could toggle.
Well, you could go ahead and toggle it on and off for a long time.
Yeah, but
right?
now they're getting to the point where they're starting to force it. They've allowed corporations to delay implementing it for a year. There's been all these kind of challenges going on. But here's the thing. They moved from what was essentially a local version of Outlook to a web-based version. And mostly it's about data mining and about control of services and all those kinds of things.
I want to give a little bit more background here, all right?
Please.
All right. So Outlook used to be this big unwieldy thing that people used not only for email, but for calendaring and for scheduling of meetings, for task management to-dos. And you could actually put tasks on your calendar. You could actually go ahead and have assign people specific tasks and have request progress report that would come back into your task list and get an update from somebody.
But even people that didn't need all that, it was still a pretty decent interface and it's still a pretty decent way to get around.
But the whole point was that this was all managed through your local Exchange server or something that was local, quote unquote, local to your enterprise. Something was managed by your internal computer IT department. All right. And now this version of Outlook, the quote unquote new Outlook, is getting away from that on-prem or even off-prem, because the cloud, quote unquote, cloud version of Exchange was still an Exchange client. It was just the storage of the data was in the cloud, but it was still segregated from everybody else's, and Microsoft couldn't touch it. All right, even if it was quote unquote stored in the cloud. All right, Microsoft didn't have any access to it. Well, the new version of Outlook is very, very much like a Google model. It's like Gmail, all right, in that Microsoft has access to all of your data and all of your information, right? So it's a completely different sort of paradigm in terms of who has access to the data, what the data can be used for, and whether or not there's going to be ads and a whole bunch of other things. So, Chris, go ahead and go from there. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, and I think that's the big thing about the corporate. The corporate was supposed to be turned over this week, this year as well.
Yeah.
And they've gotten kind of a stay of execution on it. And the main reason is exactly as you said. There was this very big concern about that data being accessible.
Right.
And being available, being accessible. There's a whole lot of concern about that and what that looks like. And do people still want to do that? And I think there's a lot of folks that are saying, yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah, well, especially in regulated industries like the pharmaceutical industry or in medical device industries. You cannot share that data with anyone.
Well, and some of my customers are government entities. You can't do it with government entities either.
No,
for the same reason, you cannot expose that data.
No, and you cannot
for a variety of reasons. There's a whole lot of laws around that.
And in many cases, I mean, even from a corporate espionage or from a corporate
Oh, sure.
intellectual property perspective, I don't care who the hell you are. I don't want anyone other than my people, right? My corporate people to have access to that data and letting anyone else have access to that information for any purposes other than, you know, uh, um, me being able, me and my company being able to
Yeah.
keep track of our own. I don't want anybody else to have that.
Now, the thing that's interesting with this is you do not have to use the Outlook client, even if you're an Outlook.com user. You do not have to use the Outlook client. There are other clients you can use out there. If you're an Apple user, you can use the Apple mail client. That
Sure, you
works
can. Sure.
perfectly well with it. And there are people talking about doing just that kind of thing to get away from this.
Right. I think
This,
one of
craziness.
the article that we're citing here even goes ahead, or the movie, or the video that
the
we're
video.
citing. Yeah, it's a video. Is actually mentions Thunderbird.
Thunderbird's
The new version is great product.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
and that doesn't share data with anyone. The
Nope.
problem here is that
Open source.
the problem here is that Outlook is part of Microsoft 365 and Office 365, and it sort of was the hub. It was the hub, for bringing in shared files, shared calendar events, meeting events.
Well, people are reluctant to change too, and this was the
Absolutely.
original personal information manager for so many people. They're just reluctant to get away from it.
It's their task manager. It was their email. It was their calendar. It was a lot of things to a lot of people.
Absolutely. And their contact manager for work. Absolutely.
The contact manager for work.
I mean, it had everything that you would, all that.
But even if you're using it as a consumer, not
personal
as
information manager, right?
But even if you weren't using it for work, it was a lot of things to people. People use it for a lot of different things.
I used
I used it for years.
Even on a personal basis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because it was the interface that I was used to, because I used it for work,
right?
And it didn't make sense for me to use anything else because I was using it for work.
Yeah. And I have to admit, on my personal accounts, I have not been using it. I actually moved away from it a few years ago. I still use it heavily for corporate work, for my work work.
Right.
But I don't use it for my personal accounts anymore.
Right. Now my personal accounts are all Gmail or Google Apps accounts.
Right.
I still would use Outlook to access that mail via POP, right? But only because I could go ahead and stick it all into one giant PST or OST.
Sure.
Right. And have the Google Mail delivered to the same inbox that my MSN account, because I have an MSN account from 1990 blah 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 that I'm still using.
Sure.
Have as an active email address.
But then there's a whole nother layer to this problem, isn't there? And
my God,
I think Larry's going to talk about the other layer.
It honest to God, it is it's up and down more than a $5 whore. Honestly.
Oh man,
isn't it, Larry? And it was down recently, wasn't it?
It is. I'll sort of lead this off, but one of our own here was affected by it. He's probably got some more interesting stories. But the last time Outlook went down was on April 28th. Yet another outage. And did anyone not see this coming? Maybe not when, but it had to happen. Personally, I wish Outlook would go off in a corner and die. But I mean, a lot of you who use it, I get it. You have to use it. There's so many people depend on it. And apart from it being down every other day in the past recent few weeks, can anybody tell me after you lose the corporate need to do Outlook, is there any reason why you should keep it for just personal email reasons?
It's interesting.
I can't think of one.
We are talking about Outlook.com here. We're not talking about the corporate
O365,
and 365.
Right. We're talking about the full bore Outlook, but the one that's online. Yeah.
This is the consumer Outlook.com. I'll tell you why. A number of years ago, I moved to it off of. I still have a Gmail account, but I moved a lot of my key stuff off of Gmail because I was unhappy with Gmail scanning my mail and doing things with my mail that I didn't want them to do.
Right.
So I went to Outlook.com. Well, guess what, kids? With all these changes that we're just talking about, um, I'm looking to abandon Outlook.com as well and move away from it as well. Um, as you mentioned, Larry, my brother and I were both impacted by this outage. It seemed to be an authentication problem of some kind. It started early in the morning on that day. For me, it didn't clear up until sometime in the evening. It was an all day kind of down thing, and no good explanations from Microsoft. And this isn't the first time. So yeah, as soon as I don't need to be, I'm gonna, I'm already working on how to get my personal accounts off it. As soon as I don't have to use it for work anymore, I will be done with it. I am just done,
I
done,
don't
done.
blame you a bit.
But I don't use the Outlook client as my personal email client. Even though I
Right.
connect
No,
to
I get that.
Outlook.com,
Yeah.
I use a different client because I'm not happy with the way the client's gone. So I avoid some of the nonsense, but not all of it. So there you go. It's not a product that's making people happy these days. That's for sure.
No, it's not.
Uh,
Now,
this is why we keep having to have the Mistake-a-thon, Chris.
it's true. It's absolutely
Right?
true. I mean, first of all, I have an issue with Microsoft and the crap that they're doing with AI, because honestly, all of
Ugh.
this is about data sovereignty. It's all about data management, data governance, with being able to train Copilot to do stuff. All right, that's why Microsoft wants access to your email and calendaring and to-do data. That's why they want access to all of your personal information. Um, uh, they want to be able to go ahead and train Copilot with that particular information. And I can guarantee you, part of the terms of service that you agree to when you start using
Mm-hmm.
that particular email client is that they're going to use your information and your data to train their AI, and you have no choice in the matter. Um, I have a serious problem with these particular ethics, and the application of these ethics. I don't agree with it. I don't like the way that Microsoft is using their AI and trying to get access to customer data to train their AI. I think what they're doing and how they're doing is a little on the sleazy foundation, but you know, but that's just me, I guess. I don't.
There are several, at least two or three decent solutions out there that are growing. They've been around a long
Yeah.
time. The biggest one is Proton.me.
Yeah,
Everything they have is completely private. Of course, you're going to pay for that, but why shouldn't you?
right.
You're private finally, but they're all the good ones are offshore because our government, our administration doesn't let these companies do the things we're talking about right now. They
Yeah,
can't stop Google from doing what they do.
sure,
But
sure.
and a
It
lot
Um,
of,
is
and
it
these
is what it
companies are
is.
growing, and I mean I've looked at them myself as options.
well, Google, I think, was smart enough to see a little bit into the future and know and understand that they started this for advertising purposes back in the day.
Right.
All right,
But they
and
at
that was
least
their
tell you. I mean,
that was their goal. They wanted to be able to go ahead and use your data to prime their advertising algorithm, right? Their
right,
machine learning advertising algorithm. It
which
was
is where
just
all their money comes from.
right, which is where a great deal of their money comes from. The issue
90%. Yeah.
here, though, is that at least now, it is not that big of a stretch for them or for their users to know and understand that Gemini is going to be worked into the use of that, and it's going to use the same data. All right. You were getting, your ads were getting customized to use specifically based upon your use, and being able to use their AI is not that big, not too far of a stretch for that. From Microsoft's perspective, though, this is night and day different from where they started things off with, and the way that their whole business model
Right. No.
was pulled together. Um,
Yeah.
and I think
Uh,
that's partly where a lot of folks are having issues or problems with
jumping on board with Microsoft and the way that they're doing things. We're used to Google
Yeah.
being this sleazy and this slimy. Having Microsoft
It's
do
just how
this,
it's the business model.
not
I
not
think
cool.
folks, I would recommend, again, we talked about Outlook this week. A lot of this is based on the same stuff that we talked about last week, the video
Yep.
we talked about from last week. I suggest people, if you haven't seen it, go back to our story from our stuff from last week. You'll see the links there. You can watch the video. That talks about how Windows got to where it is, and Outlook
Yeah.
is a part of feeding into that services model
Yeah.
that Microsoft is now using to generate their revenue streams, and not in a good way. Not in a good way.
Not in a way that people, I think a lot of people are comfortable with Microsoft using that information. All right. There are too many organizations, regulated and unregulated, that have gotten into bed with Microsoft and used their technology stacks within their organizations, and they don't necessarily want Microsoft to have access to all of their corporate data. All right.
No.
And that's basically what Microsoft is saying that they have to have now in order for you to be able to use their products. You have
Yeah.
to give us your
Which-
corporate data and
which
let us
we-
use
we
it
would
for
argue-
our purposes, and you don't have a choice.
And we would argue this is the main reason why a lot of people are wanting to abandon the platform and abandon all the subsidiary kind of apps and whatnot that go along with this platform.
Right.
But our next couple of stories are actually talking about what Microsoft thinks or what they claim they're going
What they
to
think
do.
that they're doing, what they claim that they're doing, and both of these stories come from Windows Central. But the first one here is Microsoft is said to be doing foundational work to win users back. What the heck does this mean, Chris?
That's
Well, they say they're going to recommit to Windows, recommit to Xbox. They understand that gaming is a big part of Windows, and so they're going to basically they're the phrases they're going to make foundational changes.
Right.
Okay.
When it comes to our consumer,
sure.
this is Satya Nadella talking. When it comes to our consumer
This is
business,
Satya
we are
Nadella.
doing the foundational work required to win back fans and strengthen engagement across Windows, Xbox, Bing, and Edge. In the near term, we are focused on fundamentals, prioritizing quality, and serving our core users better. With Windows, we recently announced performance improvements for lower memory devices, streamlining the Windows update experience, and brought back focus to core features and fundamentals that matter most to our customers. And you also see this in Xbox, where the team is recommitting to our core fans and players and shaping the future of play. Last week's Game Pass changes. We talked last week about the prices
Which
being lowered
are-
by about $8 a month,
But
right?
the features have been lowered as well. So
Right.
there you go.
Right. And this is one example of how Microsoft is staying responsive to customer feedback. And I think what we're saying is we're calling bullshit.
right.
I'm calling bullshit in a big way on this because it's all
Yeah.
very double speak. It's all a lot of double speak. And
It
we've
is.
heard this before without any really, really material improvements
have.
actually happening. We've heard
Yeah.
this BS line before. Every time people get a little louder, Microsoft says, "Oh, we're working on it. We're working on it. And working on it." And then they break
We'll
10 more
fix it.
things, or they make them worse than they were.
Hold on, one
And
back
it's not
users.
just
Here's
yeah,
an easy
it's not
thing. Get rid of Copilot.
Yeah.
well, that'd be
Yeah.
a big part of it, but it's more than Copilot. There's a whole
True.
lot of fundamental problems with Windows
True,
right now.
it's the
I mean,
telemetry they
File
have.
Explorer is a disaster
Yep.
in from what it was. No, we all talked about how Notepad got screwed up by adding not just by adding
AI.
Copilot, but
Yeah.
but
by
they
adding
screwed it up
AI.
in general. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing
Yeah.
is, their removal of things like Copilot is like they removed recall. They didn't really remove recall. All I did was remove
Right.
some of the user interface elements. They didn't really remove the underpinning code. It's still there in
True.
the OS.
Very true.
So I don't have a lot of faith that they're actually doing what they say they're doing.
Right.
I think it's just going to become less obvious.
Well,
You
I
It's
think
what
the
it's gonna
point of
be.
this particular article by Zach
Right.
Bowden, the senior editor over at Windows Central, is that that it's clear that something is changing internally over at Microsoft, right? This whole change of attitude is allowing teams to quote unquote refocus their efforts on what matters most, the customer. So across everything that I've talked about, says Nadella, we are also hard at work changing the way we work. Our North Star remains the same, delivering customer value with highest quality and top class innovation. And the only thing that I've got to say is, yeah, I'll see it when you can go ahead for a period of 6 to 8 months minimum, release updates to Windows Update, whether it's for Windows alone or for Windows and other Microsoft products, because you can get Windows Update to deliver updates to every Microsoft product that you have installed on your machine.
True.
Um, when they can go 6 to 8 months without screwing something up, without a new update screwing something up, then I will say, okay, they've got their hands around it, and they've got their arms around it, and they are preventing things from getting screwed up further.
Yeah, I mean, even if they could smoothen the Windows Update process, which even when it works well, it doesn't work well.
Right. Very
And
true.
and and kind of anecdotally as well, the Microsoft Store, the way it updates apps is also incredibly clunky and slow.
Very true.
If they could get these core things to even run a little better than they currently run, I would say, okay, but they can't just do it and say, okay, it's working well this week. You're going to have to prove it to me for months.
This is what I'm saying. I'd like to
like
see,
you said,
I'd like to see everything work the way it's supposed to, without any problems, without Windows Update screwing something else up for a period of 6 to 8 months minimum. If they can't get me at least half or 3/4 of a year, all right, without their updates screwing something on one of my Windows machines up, then
and it's interesting that one of the items in this was, well, we're working to make it work better on low end PCs. It's like, what does that actually mean? What are you going to do to make it better? In fact, and that kind of leads to into your next story as well. Quite honestly, it really does.
Yeah, Microsoft needs to win back Windows 11 fans, right? Also from, I said Windows Central. It's actually not Windows Central. This is from Windows latest.
It's Windows Alert. Windows latest.
All right, but this is again Satya Nadella saying that they need to win back Windows 11 fans and improve performance for low RAM PCs.
Yeah, I think this is part of the same speech that he made, because he was talking about improving low. But the point is, again, this reads like a lot of BS to me. And I think he quoted some numbers of how many active Windows users are out there, and there's a lot of them, and this and that. And
well, a lot of them. There's 1.6 billion monthly active devices that use Windows worldwide.
Yeah,
1.6 seconds.
But I don't know that that's increasing, right? Isn't it shrinking? Isn't that actually a shrinking number? He doesn't say, but
we talked about this a few shows ago. Yep.
I think we did. I think we did talk about it a few shows ago. But the point is, again, there's all this. It's like, I'm hearing this, but I want to hear this. Show me. Don't keep telling me. Show me. You haven't shown me anything yet.
True. I mean, they're doing a lot of things with Windows, that they're bringing some things back. They're bringing some features back. As an example, a movable taskbar. Right now, the Windows taskbar is stuck to the bottom of the screen, either centered or with the start button in the task bar in the center and all the icons in the center, or to the left. All right, they're supposedly going to allow you to move this thing again and put it wherever you want.
But I would argue those kinds of things are low hanging fruit. This is not fundamental.
Oh, I totally agree with you. This is not. I mean, if and when that comes back, all right, it's not going to be to a fanfare of a whole bunch of people going, finally I have control over my machine again. It is a piece of low hanging fruit. All right. And it's something that should never have been disabled in the first place. Microsoft has done a lot of that, where they have disabled things that or taken features and capabilities away from users that did nothing more than sour the milk.
Yeah.
Seriously.
So I did a little side research on just now on the number of active users, whether it's increasing or decreasing. And the numbers are relative. According to what the research here says, is that the number is stable or maybe slightly increasing in terms of raw numbers, but the market share is shrinking.
Yes.
And if you roll in the mobile market share into that, it's dramatically shrinking. If you actually consider
Sure.
mobile devices as well, of
Sure.
course.
Well,
But
they
if
don't
you're just
have a
looking
mobile
at desktop
device.
and laptops, yeah, but if you're just looking at laptop and desktop devices, the market share is shrinking, but the raw numbers are staying about the same, maybe slightly increasing, is what they're saying.
Meh. We'll see. We'll see. But
Yeah, we'll
there's a
see.
lot. There's a lot of work that Microsoft has got to do.
Yeah,
They've seriously annoyed their dedicated user base. All right, and
they have.
you've actually got CIOs and CTOs now that are looking at alternate platforms, meaning Linux and Mac OS, and
Yep.
Yeah,
they're seeing that a lot of
we can
those
do this.
they can do it. It's possible. All right. A lot of the software that you would
Mhm.
want to use or that you do use is available on all three platforms,
Well,
or there are usable and reasonable alternatives.
Well,
You know?
and as I've said, although I'm not a fan, I'm not a fan of web apps, they are certainly driving more of the market now than they used to.
Yep.
And your platform of choice matters
Absolutely.
less.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely they are. And I like I said, Microsoft's got a long road to hoe here. They really, really do.
they do. They do. I
Um,
agree.
And one of the things that we were talking about in the pre-show is, are you a Windows user now? Yes or no? If and when you get the opportunity to retire or, or to move away from Microsoft products in your personal life, will you do so? And I think all four of us gave a resounding hell yes. Not just yes, but hell yes. It's just,
Yeah. And I think I was saying earlier, not just I think I was saying earlier this week as well, is that my personal use, even in my work environment, which is primarily PC Windows centric,
yeah,
um, I use my Mac more and more to help supplement what I do because
yeah,
it's more reliable for certain
it is.
tasks.
It's more stable and it's
And,
more reliable.
it's a little faster. It's a little bit.
along that same line, if you remember some months ago, I told you we were instituting a program here. If you didn't want to move from Windows 10 to Windows 11, bring us your old laptop. We'll put Linux on it.
Linux on
We
it.
now have put Linux on 52 Windows 10
Which
machines.
Wow.
Linux distro are you using, Leon?
52 out of
Wow.
1,400 people. That's a lot.
Well,
Larry,
considering
People
which
over
considering
Windows
that
distro
those
are you
people
using?
65.
didn't, considering that
They're
those
over
people weren't even aware of what,
65.
well, they're
They may
over
not be
50.
using it. They may not be using it, but they did ask us to do it.
Well,
So
well, well. My point is, I mean, those are folks that couldn't even spell the word Linux
no, but the reason they give
9
us
months
every
ago.
single one of them, I'm tired of Microsoft. That's just all they
Yeah,
say. I'm
yeah.
tired of it.
I'm tired of
What
dealing with their
Linux are they
bullshit.
using?
Yes, absolutely.
What
I'm
Linux?
tired of dealing with their crap. All right. It's up, it's down, it works, it doesn't work, it's problematic. Things change. And I'm tired of it. And I don't blame them at all.
No, I don't either.
Well, kids, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move us to our tip of the week segment here at this point. And before we actually get into this week's tip, which by the way is going to be a Windows tip, because we've been beating on Microsoft pretty hard in the Windows and Linux segment.
Yeah.
And I do want to give them a little bit of love. I want to remind everybody that, hey, iTechGear.org was founded with the intent of making technology easy for everyone to use and understand. And this team specifically has dedicated their writing careers to this specific purpose. So every week, the iTechGear Weekly is going to feature a computing tip. It's going to be authored by one of our experienced editors. And if you've got questions, concerns, comments, suggestions, or dare I say, ideas, you can send those over to tips@itechgear.org. And if we go ahead and we use your particular suggestion, request, or idea on the show, we're going to go ahead and give you your 15 seconds worth of fame. And like I said, this week's tip is a Windows tip, and it's all about snapping windows. You can snap windows to specific key points on your machine. If you're still dragging and resizing windows manually, uh, you're doing unnecessary work. Windows 11 quietly introduced one of the most useful productivity upgrades in years with snap layouts. And most people even know that this thing exists. And if they do know that it exists, well, then they barely touch it. When you hover over the maximize button on the right side of every window, there's three buttons: a minimize, a maximize, and a close button, that red X. All right. If you hover over that button in the middle, the maximize button, you will see layout options appear. These let you instantly position windows into a clean, predefined set of arrangements, halves, thirds, or even quadrant layouts, depending on your screen size. Instead of juggling tabs and overlapping windows, you can structure your workspace in seconds. All right. The real value here is when you're multitasking, i.e., you're working with more than one window at once. All right. Think about reviewing requirements on one side, writing notes on another, or maybe keeping Teams or Slack visible. You can, using snap layouts, you can eliminate that friction of constantly, alt tabbing or switching context from one window to another. It's not flashy, but it's the kind of feature that quietly gives you some time back every day because it saves you from having to find, window, where's the window, right? Even better, Windows remembers your snapped groups. If you minimize everything to focus on something else, you can restore your entire layout with a single click from the taskbar. And that's the kind of small win that adds up over time. Bottom line here is that this isn't just Windows management, it's workflow management. And once you get used to it, going back can feel like, you trying to organize your desk in the dark. And that is today's or this week's tip of the week. Snap windows.
Mm-hmm.
You can go ahead and use them if you want to. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and move us to our pick of the week segment. And again, before we get to the actual pick this week, I want to take a moment to remind everybody that our show picks are typically hardware, software, and other items of interest that we have individually purchased and that we actually use and that we like enough that we want to recommend them to you, our growing listener base. These are not paid advertisements or anything that we have any kind of an affiliated marketing relationship with. If they were, the editorial policy over at iTechGear.org indicates that, hey, we have to let you guys know about that up front. These are just sincerely things that we believe in, and we want to bring them to you at the end of each show. Why, Joel?
Because we like you.
There you go. And you've got the pick this week, man. What is it?
All right. So one of the things I've been trying to do is read more. And I used to have a Kindle, and one of the Kindles that I have is on the one that Amazon is gonna put out to pasture.
Uh-oh.
So I picked up a brand new Kindle Colorsoft, so I could start reading more.
Okay.
And I even went with Kindle Unlimited too as well. I just went with the Colorsoft. Yeah, I didn't really have to go with the color screen, but I figured why not? Because every once in a while I do like to read like a comic book or something like that.
Sure.
So that's where the color screen really shines. But for most of my reading, it's books. Like I'm currently reading the book Relentless by Tim S. Grover, and I got another one in the list that I'm going to be reading. What is the other one I'm trying to read? Yeah, I got to look on here. Extreme Ownership, which is another book I've got in my list here. And there's a whole bunch of books I've added to my library thanks to Kindle Unlimited. So far so good. Battery life has been pretty darn good. I mean, it's no matter what, the e-ink screen that you're going to have here, it's the same reason why I went with Garmin watch, the e-ink screen is going to get you superior battery life on any kind of device that you have.
Mm-hmm.
So, generally, I'm pretty satisfied with it. I have the version with no ads, so there's no ads on it. So far, so good. I'm liking it. Gonna read more. So, um, if you don't care about the color, then you can go with one of the other ones, like a Kindle Scribe or one of the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
But this one is just what I chose to go with. So, and so far, so good.
How much they getting these days for unlimited?
That's a good question. I think it's like $12 or something a month.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
it's
Not
not
horrible.
horrible.
It's
No,
No.
not horrible. If as long as you make use of any subscription that you've
and
got,
that's the thing,
you
right?
know,
Right.
and that's half the problem with a lot of the subscriptions that are available today is that it's so easy to subscribe to something, and it's also so easy to go ahead and forget
Forget
that you
about it.
have it, and you're still
Yeah,
paying for it, but
Yeah.
not using it.
right. Exactly.
So,
So I mean, yeah. So yeah, there is value to that too. I mean, I could have continued to read in my on my uh
iPad,
iPad. Yeah, I could have
Android
done
tablet,
that or
because
Android
there is a
tablet.
because
You
there's a
know.
Kindle app that's available for both of those, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Not the
But
same for me. I love e-ink. I really do.
well, the biggest thing for me was just reading without distractions. You know, I can put
Right.
the phone down, put the iPad down, and just read. I don't get notifications on the Kindle, and that helps to me
Sure.
stay focused on what I'm trying to read.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
that simple. It's for me, it's less about the fact that I have a Kindle and more about the fact that I want to read more and I want to read without distractions.
Mm.
So,
You guys know, I tried it. My concern was the lighting wasn't good for all situations. It was great outside, great if you had good indoor lighting, but if you had weaker indoor lighting, it wasn't so hot for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Um, and I'm hoping that some of the newer models offer a little bit better. I say backlight, but it's really a front light that they're doing, in front of the e-ink. I'm hoping they do something better with that in some of the newer models. Because I liked the look of it in general. I like the look of the lettering and I like the look of the e-ink in general. Just got to have the right lighting to make it work. So it could be good for a lot of people, I think, though.
sure. Yep.
I agree. I agree. And it is it is a nifty. I've had a Kindle or two over the years. What I have really it never for me it didn't make sense to buy a specialized device when I had my either a tablet or I had my phone, and
Yeah.
the Kindle app was available and basically did all of the same kinds of things that the Kindle device itself would use. If I wasn't as big into a tablet or didn't have an iPad or a phone and didn't use that as much, I probably would have a Kindle.
Form
Um,
factor is something that you can't
yep,
replicate either, though. It's a nice form factor, the Kindle.
yep,
It is.
I agree. Um, so so yeah, but not a nice device, nice screen, nice uh, great colors. Whether or not though this thing is actually something that a lot of folks will go ahead and actually use, I don't know. You know, um, we'll see.
Yep.
The device is available directly from Amazon,
Sure
obviously, because
is.
it's a Kindle product. Kindle is owned by Amazon. How much is it, Joel?
$279.99.
So $280. Um,
It's
not too
32
bad
gigs. I
for
mean,
how
that's a
much?
lot of books. 32 gigabytes.
And that's a lot of ebook. Yeah, because ebooks are small.
Yep. For the most
Ebooks.
part, comics and other graphic things will eat up more, obviously.
Sure.
But most of the books, tiny, so no
Nice,
big deal. Yep.
nice. Well, that kids, that is the pick of the week, and that is also this week's show. This has been the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 170. Again, just the tip. Recorded live Sunday, May 3rd, 2026, live from iTechGear Central. For Mr. Chris Gavula, Brother Joe McLaughlin, and Dr. Mr. Larry McJunkin, I want to say, hey, we will see you next time.